Angels weep, their wings in flame. Lost to the void, none remain. Fire rains, the battle calls. Demons dance as heaven falls. Choirs wail the deafening night. Inferno's wrath, eternal echoes fade, the war is done. A blood-red sky, a blackened sun. Souls consumed, no path to light. Hail victorious, endless
Hello! I have so much audio going on right now. Let's close that, see if that helps. Nope. There we go. I think I might have fixed it. Hello to the world. Hello to the world. How are we all doing today? Hey there, guys, gals, MBs, and everybody in between. How are we all doing today? It is another hot summer day, but an absolutely beautiful day to be alive. I am Kevin the Cheese Weeb. I'm a leftist cheesemonger. I am hoping to make the world a better place, a little bit one day at a time, however I can. And today I'm hoping to do that by talking about Zohran Mamdani, everybody's favorite guy, or at least my favorite guy. If he's not your favorite guy, I need you to reevaluate a lot of things in your life. Most specifically, I need you to reevaluate the empathy that you show towards others, because the current administration, the current system that we have, does not believe in empathy, and it comes down to each and every one of us to show empathy wherever we can. Let's close down this music. A gentle fade, as we say in the industry. And hello. It is, what day is today? It is Tuesday. I am very happy to say that I was able to get out of work early today, and so I'm able to start streaming at a slightly earlier time. We love that. I love streaming at a slightly earlier time. That brings a lot of joy to my life. Because last night I was up far too late streaming. I think I was up until like 1:45 streaming last night. Anyway, it is a beautiful day in the world of New York City with the Democratic primary nominee of Zohran Mamdani. It is a pretty dark day everywhere else. Unfortunately, the big, beautiful, not so beautiful bill has been passed in the Senate and now it heads back to the House to be reviewed, to be voted on the changes made in the Senate. And overall, unfortunately, this is just a absolutely disgusting, terrible thing. This puts about 17 million Americans off of Medicaid, off of health insurance, completely throws the most marginalized and the most vulnerable in our societies into even worse circumstances. So that's absolutely disheartening to see. It was a 50-50 vote that came down to J.D. Vance doing the tiebreaker. I think afterwards Trump was bragging about it being an easy pass. So I'm glad that it was an easy pass for them. I'm glad that it didn't come down to the wire or anything. And I'm glad that this means that the richest people are going to be able to get even more money. I want to talk about good things for a little bit, though. Well, maybe not good things. It's specifically about Zohran Mamdani. Zohran is an angel, a gem. I apologize for talking about him all the time. However, I think I've likened him at one point to that scene in The Dark Knight. That scene in The Dark Knight, where Harvey Dent was saying to Bruce Wayne, "Are you a closet Marxist communist? Do you know if it'll work somewhere one day?" I don't see a way in which capitalism can continue working for the masses. Capitalism, as we've seen, only leads to further and further, what's the word? Further and further wealth inequality, with simply dragon hordes being held at the top of the food chain. I don't really necessarily care about specifically saying I am a communist. Leftist, I think, fits the bill pretty well. But overall, I think communism is a more ethical, better policy compared to capitalism. There's a guy on YouTube, and I'm going to steal his, or he streams as well, but Jovan Bradley, I'm going to steal one of his examples. But whenever he's debating somebody, he debates people all the time. And again, I'm stealing this from him. I don't know where he got it from, but he brings up the example of, let's say you and I are going to we're on a plane together. We're flying through the air, something terrible happens, and you and I, the only people on this plane, crash onto an island. Luckily, we both survive. Once we're on the island, again, we both survive, but I wake up before you wake up. In this process, when I wake up, I see that there's only one source of water on the island. I see that there is only one source of coconut trees or coconuts on the island. It comes from one particular tree that grows right next to that fresh water. So before you wake up, I build a fence around it. Also, before you wake up, I find the one gun that I have on the island. I take that gun, and when you wake up, I have it held to you, and I say, all right, so exciting news, you've been liberated. You've been liberated, and now you get the exciting experience of working for me. What you get to do is you get to now do whatever I say, and in doing so, I will give you an allotted amount of coconuts and an allotted amount of fresh water on a day-to-day basis based off the labor that you perform. And I've asked this to a couple of different people whenever I talk to somebody, and like the Red Scare propaganda of communism comes into play. And every single time I've employed this thought experiment with them, the first thing they say is, "Oh well, I'll just wait until you go to sleep, and once you're asleep, I'm gonna run over and I'm gonna steal the gun." And I'm going to then use it against you. So now you'll do. Anyway, the first response that anyone I've talked to about this, or use this again, thought experiment with, the first thing that they respond with is, I'm going to, in fact, overthrow you in a violent fashion. So I tried to, again, use this thought experiment to explain capitalism in its most basic form. I have private property. I have a show of force to defend that private property. If you want to be able to survive and get my private property, my goods and my goods, then you have to provide the services to do so. Again, the first thing that they respond with is, I'm going to commit violent revolution. In response to this, I'm going to take the gun and use it against you and make you. So the system in which is inherently greedy, the system in which inherently is built on defining your worth based off of your material conditions, specifically compared to other people, in a make-believe caste system, again, just based off of who was in the right place at the right time. I don't see that sustaining itself in any direction. I mean, capitalism, again, will just continue this track of hoarding the wealth of the very top. As we see right now, the stock market being manipulated on a day-to-day basis at times by the president, Donald Trump, good old Mr. President. As these shifts are happening in the stock market, regular people, regular Joe Schmoes, are losing fortunes in their 401k accounts as the top 1% are able to, once the dip happens, swoop in with their funds, buy up the dip, and once the economy recovers, they have a much larger stake in the economy than they had before. So this wealth inequality that is bred from capitalism is only going to lead to one result. Well, two results. It's either going to result in a overthrow of the governments can be as corrupt as private business. I mean, sure, governments can be corrupt, but private businesses operate solely at the behest of those that they serve to benefit in terms of profit margins. Whereas governments can be led by the people. Like, sure, governments can be corrupt, but a lot of the times those corruptions come from a place of capitalism. So, for example, like, a lot of people, when you talk to them about capitalism and say like the issues with capitalism, the first response that they have is, "Oh, well, that's corporatism. That's simply a matter of corporatism. Like, that's just a matter of like corporations have a vested interest in the state in a way that they can, through money and through material means, finance and direct the way that they want politics to go." Now, ideally, in a fully communist state, there is no government in the same fashion as which it is now. The overthrow or the dismantling of the systems of private property has high equality regarding income. I mean, in the sense of like they're all poor, but I wouldn't necessarily call North Korea the best example of a communist civilization. Like, when we look at what communism would actually look like, it looks more like indigenous tribes in North America or Central America as well. This equation of North Korea and this equation of like bread lines to communism, a lot of that just comes from U.S. propaganda and, again, like Red Scare propaganda from the Cold War era. The CIA has already revealed that there was organized council communism in the USSR in the time. They specifically tried to give the idea to the U.S. citizens that wasn't the case, that there wasn't systems of democracy built into the USSR as a way of dehumanizing the population there, as well as a matter of trying to disenfranchise the communist movement. But the idea of a government being in the same form that it is now sort of disappears with the disappearance of specifically capital interest. So when we talk about the switching over from capitalism to communism, there no longer is private property. Everybody has what they need provided to them. And so there isn't the same special interest that you have now of maintaining a profit margin, because there's no purpose for a profit margin. Everybody has what they need, and so therefore, what's the problem? And we once everybody has what they need, we can figure out systems to identify specific wants and figure out what is needed compared to what is inefficient or not best for the community at large. And that can be decided again through councils, as well as that can be decided through democratic representation. You know, I think the Last of Us is I hate to point to just sort of pop culture, but and the Last of Us, they walk into a the commune in, is it Wisconsin? I think it's Wisconsin they're in, but they walk into the commune that they're in, and they jokingly say like, "Oh well, we're not communists here." And one of the characters looks to the other and says, "No, this is a commune. Like what we have here is a commune." But then you look at season 2, everything that is decided in the community is put up to a vote led by the council of this community. These are specifically people who are voted into these positions by the community at large, who are trusted members of that community, who have the best interests of the community at large. And so this idea of like governments being able to be corrupt as private businesses doesn't really work in the same way when those private business interests disappear altogether. What would prevent everyone from wanting to do only the easiest jobs? I mean, what is the pardon me while I look it up. What is the each to their own accord, and their ability? I'm missing up the quote. Communism quote. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. So as we are right now in this world that we find ourselves in, we already have no, you wouldn't just get a designated job at random from birth. It would be based off of your skill set. It would be based off of your own interests that you have. It would be based off of things that you want to do. And in the same sense of, you know, if you get bored of your job, if it's to the betterment of a community that you no longer work that job because you don't find a passion for it, then why would anybody in the community want you to maintain having that job? Like, there are going to be, you know, bad jobs to have altogether, but overall, if everybody's needs are met, then I foresee the ability for people to be able to pool together to be able to do a little bit of shit shoveling, when it means that every single person that's in your community has all of the food that they need, has all of the water they need, has all of the shelter that they need, compared to the current system that we have, which the winners get like a little bit of a breadcrumb. The 0.01% gets to live like Smaug from Lord of the Rings. The 90% get to live kind of like, you know, live in squalor. And so when we look at people wanting to do jobs, there's going to be an opportunity for people to have some say in the job that they do. And but the way that we consist right now, we already live in a society in which there's more than enough food for us to be able to there's already more than enough food for us to be able to survive. We simply get rid and destroy a lot of food in order to protect profit margins. Grocery stores at the moment, or in general, will take their food that they're getting rid of, throw it into their dumpster, and just to make sure that people can't get into their, or won't steal from their dumpster, they then throw bleach and pour bleach all over the food inside of there, again, to protect their profit margins, because they don't want people dumpster diving for food. Creating food scarcity creates the profit margins that we see around food in general. So when we look at individual success, I think it's a matter of what you define success as. In terms of, a person having the success of, I have $5 million in my bank account compared to the other 40 people in my neighborhood who all have like $20,000 in their bank account. I don't really call that success. I would call success everybody being able to live fulfilling lives. When we look at the labor required for everybody to be able to do so, again, we already have an over production of food. We have an incredibly high workforce. It's just a matter of shifting what that workforce is doing. So when it comes to a matter of being able to achieve anything, I would say that we can spend more time being able to achieve things like enlightenment, being able to achieve things like fulfilling conversation and fulfilling experiences with one another. We can have success in global equality in terms of climate change. Putting a stop to climate change, I think, would be a huge success that would affect tons of individuals, because at the moment, there's plenty of individuals who are being killed every year due to climate change. I think it would be a huge success for a bunch of individuals to not die of starvation. As of right now, I believe the number is about 25,000. How many people die every day from starvation? Welcome to the United Nations, UN.org. This 2008 report has 25,000 dying to hunger every day. I think it would be a huge individual success if we could get all 25,000 of those individuals all the food that they need for the rest of their lives sustainably. Like, again, this measurement of success, I think, is dictated into a capitalist system, and getting away from that system as a whole changes what we dictate and marktate as success. Sorry, 1 second. I appreciate you engaging. I'm always excited to talk about communism, especially compared to capitalism. I think communism overall, again, is a far more ethical system to believe in and to fight for. And I think the absolute best reason to showcase, or the best way to showcase that, is talking about a guy by the name of Zohran Mamdani. I've talked about it a couple of times here and there about Zohran being up against capital in general, but it's been I think it's been a week now since he won. Yeah, I think he won last Tuesday, the Democratic primary nominee. And with him winning that, I have since seen, as I was expecting to see, all of the capitalists possible uniting in a united front against Zohran. So the specific capitalists that we look at when talking about specifically, especially New York City, we're going to be looking at. Excuse me. We're going to be looking at business owners. We're going to be looking at private property owners. We're going to be looking at those who have a vested interest in Zionism. We're going to be looking at those who are involved in the NYPD. The populist left face the same challenges. The populist left face the same challenges populist right has faced. I mean, I think the problem with populist right is that it's kind of inherently against itself. Like, to be on the right is to maintain conservative values and is to keep others out of the not even the limelight, out of society as much as possible. And so the idea of populism actually being achieved by the right, I think, is much more just the right trying to feign the idea that they care about populism, and a way to try to swing voters in their direction. I mean, capitalism reformed, like, again, as long as you stick to the holding of private property on a in the manner of which it is, or maintain private property as a structure, there's going to be a inherent desire to maintain more and more private property. Uh, I don't see a way in which capitalism can be fixed by any means. The idea of like democratic socialism, I think for the most part is just sort of, again, placating. I think the idea of like democratic socialism is more so just placating again to like the Red Scare propaganda coming from the Cold War. Like the idea of democratic socialism. Okay, so you believe in socialism in a democratic sense, but socialism, what is the end goal of socialism if not to lead to a communist society? Like let me look up the specific definition. Socialism definition, because we love being specific. I mean, I certainly see similarities in the opposites as well. If you go too far towards any one direction, you're bound to find absolutely crazy people. Generally speaking, there's I think probably 15 to 20% of people on either side that's never going to change their side no matter what, and there's probably around 70% in the middle that can be swayed one way or another, depending on what's fashionable. But liberalism has just been fashionable for so long. But socialism, characterized by the social ownership of the means of production. So the social ownership of the means of production is the means of production, which generally is defined as labor, capital, technology, and resources. Returning those over to the working class, and in doing so, achieving income equality. Now, turning those over to the working class just again leads to, or ideally leads to, a place in which there is no distinction between class. Like the distinction between class is generally where most hatred comes from. Like when you look at when you look at hate from any direction, it's generally the capitalists that are throwing that hate around. When you look at I love the idea of Christianity going along with capitalism in any way whatsoever, as if Jesus's teachings line up with capitalism, and again this dog eat dog mentality, as opposed to the idea of feeding the poor, feeding the needy, feeding the hungry. I just don't see a way in which capitalism can work, and so this idea of ending its socialism, or a democratic socialism version, like that sort of just sounds like I was describing when I was describing communism, of a collection of individuals who are democratically put in positions of power to hear from the members of their community, to take those conversations and make decisions that would best work for the community. The only difference is, by getting rid of capitalism and the private property aspect, you get rid of the opportunities for like corporate lobbying, because there are no corporations in the same way. I see class as a depressing reality of life. Yeah, I mean, in this world, it absolutely is, in the system that we're set up for it to be. I mean, there's so much more class solidarity than you can find. I mean, class solidarity, I think, is a much broader umbrella term for a lot of the individualities you see between different communities. But overall, every community has a poor class. Every community has a class of poor. Not every community has classes of billionaires. And so the idea of create or having class distinctions, the upper class is able to use their propaganda, their material conditions, their bully pulpit, their media machine to manufacture consent amongst the masses. Again, we're seeing this right now. It's not the problem of the billionaire Elon Musk, who's hoarding money and has 200, I don't even know his current net value with the way Tesla stock is going, but the richest man in the world, he's not the problem. The problem is Jose down the street. The problem is the Hispanic guy, is the brown guy who doesn't speak the right language. The problem is the other group that we see, as opposed to actually the person that has all of the media under his thumb. And so with like Zohran, for example, we're seeing this media machine happen right now in real time. We're seeing capitalists unite because for the first time in a long, long time, we're seeing a shining beacon of hope in a place that can make actual change, in a place that can have a fundamental difference in the way that people view socialist policies, view the idea of communism in general. Again, the general mass of America is not going to have a big change in the way they view communism. The Red Scare propaganda goes incredibly deep, and I hope every day we can change more and more folks over to a better side. But quality of life can improve for both top and bottom class at the same place. In this, I absolutely agree. And so, like with Zohran Mamdani, one of the things that they are, let me change my screen, or rather have a more handsome face than mine up on screen right now. Because look at that cutie. Look at that cutie right there. So like, quality of life can absolutely improve. Like Zohran Mamdani right now, one of the things that they are using to try to disenfranchise his message and try to undermine his campaign, and we're seeing this from both leader Democrats, we're seeing this from Democrats in general. We're seeing this from the NYPD. We're seeing this from the right in general, from Trump all the way down to every news journalist, every pundit possible. But every single opportunity that they have right now, they are talking to Zohran Mamdani and asking him specific questions, trying to connect him to the idea of communism. He's been somewhat particular in his phrasing at points about seizing the means of production and things along those lines. But the disenfranchisement right now around this person, as every single media conglomerate tries to attack him solely based on his socialist policies, asking him the general questions that you always hear of: how are you going to pay for this? It's never a question of how we're going to be able to pay for various things in terms of, I don't know, the military-industrial complex, in terms of the Pentagon's budget. It's never a question of how I can pay for those things. But the idea of paying for a free bus, you've got to be fucking kidding me. That man than Biden like Democrats because of this one reason. Exactly. This is what the dream behind Zohran is, and the idea of a politician actually having a good thing to say, actually conveying populist messaging. And aside from that, the reason I'm so excited about Zohran Mamdani specifically is I've never seen another candidate as disciplined, as consistent, and honestly, I don't know how to describe it other than just like seemingly cocaine fueled. The guy doesn't stop. A couple of days before the election, he went from I think it was the top. He started the top of New York, and he walked the 13 miles all the way down to Battery. And there was not only, obviously a camera crew following him as he fist bumped and shook the hand of every single person that he talked to, whether he agreed or not. But he also, there were also just countless sightings of people just taking pictures of him in the street, just talking to other people in the street every opportunity that he had. The charisma around this guy is absolutely insane, and I do my best, not to try to put like all my eggs in one basket or believe in one person that again can be corrupted and through the democratic machine overall makes side deals and makes moral inconsistencies and makes morally questionable decisions, and through that process graze his moral line. I've never seen somebody as consistent when it comes to the messaging that he has, to the brand that he portrays, to his ability to answer questions from news correspondents. And when you look at Democrats like Biden, the establishment Democrats, there's no backbone behind them. The only thing that they care about is defending Israel, is defending the sanctity of Israel. One of the biggest things that they are shitting on Zohran for right now is the fact that he is not bending the knee to Israel. The fact that he is not saying, "Am Israel high" is a huge problem, and he needs to potentially be deported for that, as the President of the United States is saying now. He's using the veil of communism as a scare tactic. But again, you have a New York Democratic primary nominee who is not bending the knee to Israel, and the entire media conglomerate machine is turning against him in an effort to disenfranchise him, because he's going against that machine. He's going against the interests of capital, because the interests of capital would have them maintain the Israel war machine. The more Israel dumps bombs onto 3 and 4-year-old Palestinian children, the more weapons that they then get from the United States, the more money that they get from the United States. The United States gets to produce more weapons. They're weapons contractors. They get to make more weapons. They get more money. They get to sell those weapons. They get subsidies. Everybody's happy except for, the Palestinians. But they're brown, so who cares? I respect backbone, own person, no strings attached. If he maintains this can't be compromised, I don't want to say persona, because I believe I'm a sipper of the Kool-Aid. But if he maintains this consistency, again, I don't see where this stops for him. In a matter of a week, he has become the front runner and the main person leading the Democratic Party, and the entire Democratic Party, meanwhile, sits on their thumbs and says that they can't support him and can't endorse him because they haven't had a personal conversation with him. Hakeem Jeffries, when asked directly, do you endorse Zohran Mamdani as the New York mayor candidate, his response was, well, we haven't had a conversation about it. We haven't talked in person. I'm excited for those talks, but, I can't really get... When Eric Adams was elected mayor, he was given the full tour. He was given. They showed him all. They didn't pull it. They didn't pull any stops. They didn't hesitate to do everything they could to platform him. He was in the White House days after the election as the new New York City mayor. Obviously, that's not going to happen right now for Zohran, but he's getting ignored by the likes of Chuck Schumer, by the likes of Hakeem Jeffries, who are playing a coward right now, who are running with their tail in between their legs, as the entire Democratic Party is right now. There's not a single Democrat who's really leading the charge against anything. AOC and Bernie Sanders, they had a lot of momentum, and they had a lot of excitement around their No Oligarchy or Stop Oligarchy tour. But that tour was then co-opted by the Democratic movement into the No Kings movement. The No Kings movement, I thought that was a funny change from the No Oligarchs. It's almost if there's Democratic oligarchs, and those Democratic oligarchs didn't want to necessarily risk their positions of power, and those Democratic oligarchs didn't want to send out the message that oligarchy is bad. They wanted to send out the message that a king is bad. They wanted to send out the message that Trump as a king would be bad. But they're fine with oligarchs. Again, this small difference is a matter of complicity from the Democratic Party. They're complicit in what the Republicans are doing because they are not interested in trying to stop them. Hakeem Jeffries is happy to do a 25-hour stand about the reasons in which Trump is a monster, while no point during that conversation talk about the plight of the Palestinians or the genocide or calling it a genocide during his speech. But now, at the same motion, now that he's had his big performative moment where he went up on stage and talked for 25 hours, now that he's in a meeting where he can vote to impeach Donald Trump, don't worry, he voted no. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't want to impeach Trump for attacking Iran. Wouldn't want to do that because why would you? We don't like Iran anyway. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they both said it themselves. We don't. What was it they said? While the president's actions are an obvious overreach of presidential and executive powers, overall, Iran cannot have a weapon of mass destruction. And that was sort of where they ended the line. They're fine, with the fact that Iran was bombed because they can't have a weapon of mass destruction. They just don't like the way that the president went around it. He should have asked permission first. He didn't send a letter. He just went ahead and did it, and that's upsetting. Much of Trump and Farage's success isn't even all them. Yeah, like it's the capitulations of the Democrats. Like every opportunity that the Democrats have to reach across the line and capitulate to what the Republicans say, they take it. We saw this with the border. The idea that fentanyl coming across the southern border is a huge problem is absolutely ridiculous, and it's false. Most fentanyl is coming across legal ports of entry from U.S. citizens, and I don't know why it's such a leap in logic to be able to figure that out. Why if you are a drug smuggler, why would you want to give those drugs to the person who is more likely to be stopped and frisked just based off of racial background and racial bias, as opposed to somebody who in theory should be able to get in the country scot-free? And so this idea of the Democrats saying, oh yes, we need to watch out for the illegal, the undocumented immigrants crossing the border. We need to watch out for them bringing fentanyl in the country. That's them agreeing with the right. That's them saying, actually, you know what? The right has been saying this whole thing about immigration this whole time. And we've been saying that they were lying, but actually they've been right this whole time, and we agree with them, so you should agree with us and vote for us, as if the people they're talking to aren't going to agree with those who have been saying the whole time that they hate brown people. The idea that the idea that this inept and idiotic administration could get as far as they had if the Democrats were actually competent is laughable. They would have no opportunity whatsoever if the Democrats were able to hold them to a single issue to account for. But the Democrats are spineless, every single one of them. Right now, I mentioned Bernie Sanders and AOC. I was really excited that they had such a huge momentum being built for them. And what did they do with that momentum? After the No Kings protest happened, it kind of fizzled out. I haven't really heard from them since they endorsed Zohran, and I think Bernie was on Joe Rogan the other day, and I haven't watched that yet because I don't have time at the moment. We'll watch a Bernie interview to see what he has to say about Zohran at some point, once I stop ranting about the Democratic Party. But I'm not ready to get off my soapbox. People like this New York mayor candidate can also benefit. Yeah, Cuomo, I've heard several times them try to disenfranchise Bill de Blasio and try to say that when Bill de Blasio was mayor of New York City, that he was not able to pull in the masses together and get behind him as if it wasn't Cuomo who was governor when Bill de Blasio was mayor at the time. Cuomo had a issue directly with Bill de Blasio, and every opportunity that he had, he tried to get underneath him and try to ruin any plans that he had. And so again, they're trying to show off like, oh, populism in New York City sounds like communism. You're going to burn the city to the ground. Bill de Blasio tried that, and it didn't work out so great for him. So you should vote for Cuomo, the guy who caused Bill de Blasio's programs to not be able to take off the ground. Yeah, Bernie Sanders got screwed over, Hillary and Biden, and Bernie Sanders, I'll always have a love for. I think there's something to be said about him trying to like work inside the permission structure of the Democratic Party, and I think that's where we're, at least right now at this moment in time, seeing from Zohran is his unwillingness to bend the knee to the established Democrats, as opposed to like, unfortunately, I hate to say it again, I'm always going to be a fan, or at least until otherwise should happen, but like AOC, I don't see shit from AOC right now. Like, as far as I'm concerned, AOC, aside from Zohran, is the leader of the Democratic Party. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are who fucking knows where, on a book tour or something. AOC has the bully pulpit and the platform in order to do things. Tom Homan is calling her out on a daily basis, saying that she needs to be arrested because she's trying to educate vulnerable people on what to do if ICE comes knocking on their door. The Gestapo comes beating down their door. And it's absolutely disgusting, the treatment that Zohran's getting. Again, not only from the side that we expect to get these attacks from, the right, but specifically the attacks that's coming from inside his own party, the people that are supposed to be falling in line behind him. He has said multiple times that he wants his campaign to be a model for the Democratic Party, and that is because of what his campaign represents to the people in this moment in time. An actual view of what populism could look like, and a desire for that. But also this idea of like, the people willing for socialistic policies is ridiculous. There are other people that have socialist policies that want to push those policy forwards in New York. The difference is Zohran. The difference is the candidate behind those policies. This guy managed to, in a matter of, I think it was 4 months, gain 40 points in polls and get to the point to where he could overtake Andrew Cuomo. That is not a normal thing that a normal person can do. This guy, again, as far as I can tell, is fueled solely by good vibes, cocaine, maybe like tropical breeze, Capri Sun. I don't really know, but whatever he has, it's working for him, and it's working for me. Happened in the UK with what Starmer did to Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, Corbyn got snubbed. I'll always, again, another figure that I'll always love, Jeremy Corbyn. And the UK media environment is so different compared to the US media environment, especially when it comes to like any kind of right in the UK. Like the right in the US is spoon-fed. They're spoon-fed their interviews from correspondents. They are fed questions. You can see this, obviously through Fox News ever talking to Trump and them just saying, oh, you worked really hard on that, and them what's the word for it? Tickling his balls with their tongue, I think it is. If you look, especially right now, at interviews, as I'm going to get into in a couple minutes, again, whenever I get off my soapbox, if you look at interviews right now with Zohran Mamdani, they are much more intense with him than they usually are with their more conservative or Republican counterparts. I've seen a relentless attack of the same talking points. I think I've watched 8 different interviews from CNN, NBC, MSNBC, all of the mainstream places, as well as Fox coverage, and every single place has the same talking points. He's inexperienced, which is laughable because the Trump campaign doesn't give a shit about experience. I brought this up yesterday, and I'm going to bring it up again because I want to laugh at how shitty this 22-year-old looks. What's his name? Trump. HOE. No, that's not right. Department Defense Against Terrorism lead. Against terrorism lead. What's his name? Falange. What's his name? Let me just search the 22-year-old head. Thomas Fugate, that's his name. Look at this fucker. He looks like shit. This guy's 22 years old. I think it simply must be the hate that ages you. I can't think of any other reason for it. But the idea of inexperience being a reason in which you can't have a job is absolutely laughable from anybody in this administration, from any of these geriatric leaders that are simply spoon-fed their positions of powers by being paid for by AIPAC and being funded by AIPAC in order to get through their primaries. Compared to a grassroots campaign brought about by the people, this idea of inexperience is laughable again. The other thing that I'm seeing is, general Red Scare propaganda. He's a communist. Better be scared. He's gonna burn New York City to the ground. Capitalist flight. If I hear, I know I'm gonna hear it today several times. If I hear about capitalist flight one more time, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. The idea of capitalist flight is such a hoax. The idea that people are going to, because Zohran Mamdani is elected mayor and their taxes might go up by, I believe it's 2% on those making over $1 million a year or more. The idea that they're going to, because of a 2% tax difference, leave the most significant cultural and financial epicenter in the United States of America is laughable. What do you think as an American of the European Union, or no opinion? I mean, I think again, like, the less barriers and the less borders that we have in general is a good thing. I've never been one to really entertain or really care about the idea of borders. I've just seen them as imaginary lines. I understand, wanting to know where people are, especially, people that have like criminal backgrounds, not necessarily having free travel to go wherever they want, anytime they want. But I think the more opportunities that we have for more free trade and for a better sharing of resources and a better sharing of technology, not just technology, but technology, but also just science knowledge in general. Better sharing of resources, a better sharing of knowledge generally leads to more tolerant people, generally leads towards better advancements in those places. And so, I mean, if it's a matter of us joining the European Union in order to join in on these things, then I say, why the fuck not? If it's a matter of joining the European Union in order for Americans to get the free health care that they deserve, then I say abso-fucking-lutely. Let's do it tomorrow. Whatever, makes that happen as soon as possible to heal as many people as possible. I say that's totally great. But I want to listen to what Bernie has to say. I want to listen to what Bernie has to say about Zohran. I've been waiting because I love Bernie.
Sanders is an independent of Vermont. He endorsed Zohran Mamdani.
He endorsed him.
In a new op-ed for The Guardian, he asked, quote, will the Democrats learn from Zohran Mamdani's victory? And he joins me now. Senator, what's your reaction to the big upset last night?
Enthusiastic. It was one of the great political victories in modern history. Zohran ran a brilliant campaign. And I think the most significant part of his campaign, and I, Chris, would not compare it to Obama or to Clinton. What Zohran understood is that in order to win, you got to be more than charismatic, and he is. You got to be more than smart, which he is. You got to build a strong grassroots movement around a progressive agenda.
So what that means is Bernie saying there is what Bernie is saying there is unlike Bill Clinton and Obama, who were feigning progressive values while maintaining liberal establishments and liberal structures, Zohran is actually building a coalition through a grassroots movement and through an empowerment of the people of New York City to make insistent and consistent change in this place that will be for the betterment of the masses, as opposed to just the smaller, epicenter of funds and where the material conditions actually end up being. Oh yeah, absolutely. I love talking. That's why I started doing this. I think it's better to try to use your voice as a force of good. I have felt pretty cowardly for waiting 30 years to, I guess, sort of be more open about my opinions and try to be the change that I want to see. So I just thought, absolutely happy to talk. I also love psychology. The psychology behind politicians is absolutely terrifying. I I think overall, politics is generally going to be led in a way where the individual power structure, or rather, where the individual is able to enrich themselves. Again, as we have these systems put in place to put value on enriching yourself as opposed to enriching others. So again, the idea of moving towards the left and moving towards a system of equal rights and equal opportunities for everybody, including just the opportunity in terms of, making sure you have a square meal a day, is always the best way that you can go. Is the future for the better left and right? Absolutely. Populist is the way to go. I think people are finally starting to see. I think COVID was a very big shift for a lot of people. If you're in the UK, we had over here, plenty of opportunities for the government to help out the people. And I think for the first time, a lot of Americans actually saw the government stepping in and saying, okay, you are not able to handle this on your own. Here is what you need to be able to deal with this situation. And we were specifically told during this time of COVID-19 that what we were being given was the bare minimum, because those who were giving it to us were specifically also telling us they did not want to be giving it to us. The media around giving it to us, I say as everybody who received, financial stimulus checks. The people who are not fans of giving it to us were very open about not being fans about giving it to us. And yet, we were told this is the bare minimum, but it was also better than any other, or the majority of Americans had ever seen in their life, in terms of the amount of money that was given to people through unemployment, as well as through the weekly stipends that came through unemployment. It was the first time in which people were being paid beyond minimum wage in some places, and we're actually able to not just have the means to survive, but actually the means to thrive. And it was the first time people had a sense of financial independence for a lot of individuals, and you're immediately greeted with, after COVID-19, the immediate aftermath of that going in the exact opposite direction. And instead, we're seeing companies using the excuse of COVID-19 in order to gouge their prices as much as possible. As soon as COVID-19 ended, or even during the COVID-19 pandemic, as supply chain issues shut down, as different issues came about through shipping, through shipping units, through shipping containers. As all these supply systems break down, the costs of things are going to go up. However, businesses were actively taking the prices of their goods, and despite having government subsidies to guarantee low prices in places like supermarkets, despite them having government subsidies, prices of groceries continued to rise. Prices of everyday objects continued to rise. Inflation continued to rise, except it wasn't actual inflation. It was just these companies increasing the products, or excuse me, the price of their products. So I think yeah, COVID was a big shift for a lot of people, and I think it made a lot of people realize again not only what the government can do, but what the government should be doing in terms of what they should be providing for their populace. We are the richest country in the world, and the idea that we cannot survive and we cannot thrive equally and in a way that is equitable to everybody is absolutely disgusting. And at the same time, again, I'm saying this from the privilege of living in the United States and the privilege of not being in other countries where outside of under capitalism, there's an estimated, I believe it's 40 million people who are enslaved across the global South, and they're fed paid absolute squalor, this being youth, this being children, this being people who are just disenfranchised and put down for their ethnic background, for their religions, and is absolutely disgusting. And as long as capitalism thrives, I don't see a way in which that doesn't continue. And so this idea of Zohran Mamdani being separate from Bill Clinton and Obama, and again, that brand of liberalism where we want to help the gays, and we want to get the gays marriage rights, but also we want to do it in a way in which business owners feel protected, and also we can merchandise the gay movement, and we can put rainbows on everything, and we can commodify the movement, and we can make money off of their strive for empowerment and their strive for equity. And so as opposed to Zohran Mamdani, who is actually, again, building a coalition of people, of ideas that matter to people, that people in the streets can see being a significant difference in their day-to-day life. The average New Yorker having free buses versus not having free buses is a complete game changer in terms of anybody who is any part of the houseless population having access to be able to travel, to the soup kitchen that they need to get to and get back to the place that they need to get to without having to worry about being mugged in the street to the same extent, because they have safe, fast, and convenient free bus systems.
He had thousands and thousands of people knocking on doors because they were excited about his message. And his message said, you know what? In a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, we are going to ask the richest people in New York City to start paying their fair share of taxes. So among other things, we can address the major crisis facing New York and America, by the way, is soaring housing costs. They're going to freeze rent at a time when families can't afford decent quality food. He's talking about helping to create publicly funded grocery stores so that kids can get food that's affordable.
It's fucking
making
based.
buses free. He's giving people a positive agenda, not just going after Trump, but giving something that people can believe in, an analysis which reflects their reality. So I thought it was a great campaign, and I look forward to continue to work with him.
One thing I think is that
boo, boo, fuck you, Jake Tapper. Boo, fuck you.
One thing that happens in campaigns is people get risk averse the more sort of backing they have, and so they don't want to screw it.
This is my first time being on stream and getting to see this is Jake. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Chris Hayes. Who are you? Are you Chris Hayes? Am I insane? I'm insane. Never mind. You got off this time. You got off lucky, Chris.
And the more that you're coming from a position of no one expects you to win, it does also give you latitude to actually go out and try stuff. Even whether that's a new ideas, we're going to try publicly funded grocery stores. No one else is saying that, but I do think there's an appetite for risk or trying new things that was so palpable in this campaign that seems to me also really important.
But it's not just, he sat up at night, I think, this is, a risky idea, but we'll do
Right.
it.
No, right.
I think he is prepared, and this is the point.
So Bernie Sanders, or I'm sorry, not Bernie Sanders, Chris Hayes here, talking about the risks involved in his ideas and the problems that come from his. I don't know if y'all heard that, but it sounds like we're going to get a storm pretty soon. Talking about the risk involved with his idea. All of his ideas have precedent for working. Like the rent freeze, the last mayor, I think, did it 3 times. I think he froze the rent 3 times. And there wasn't out screaming about, communists burning down New York City when that happened. His idea of free buses has been implemented in other places, and it's been resounding success, not only increasing safety, but also opportunities in terms of lower income citizens, the opportunity to be able to get to jobs in an easier way, the opportunity to be able to get to their job consistently in an easier way. How many jobs ask you during the interview process if you have reliable transportation to work? They can't ask you if you have a car, because that would be protected under the EEOC, or at least it is right now until presumably the Supreme Court gets rid of it altogether at some point. But you can't ask somebody how they if they have a car that can get them to work every day. You can ask them if they have reliable transportation. Free, fast, safe buses sounds like a great way to be able to provide safe and reliable transportation to everybody who needs it.
Look, what is the Democratic Party today, Chris? It is, I don't think people can argue with us. It is funded by very wealthy people. It is run by inside the Beltway consultants who really have very little clue about what's going on in the real world. And that is why I think, sadly, Kamala Harris lost an election that she should have won. It is a party which is not going to take on powerful special interests because of fundraising fears. And it certainly has turned its back on working people. And Zohran did all of that. He changed all of that about.
Yeah, I was getting through that specific part of Bernie's statement before talking about Starmer's labor, but it's exactly the same thing as Biden's Democrats. The way that they're operating, it's in the defense of capital. It's in the defense of capital, and the problem with defending capital and capital interests is that as income inequality and as wealth inequality skyrockets further and further, the bottom. To bring it back to one of my favorite movie, A Bug's Life, the ants at the bottom, at some point they're going to realize that they're being stepped on. And at some point they're going to realize that they have a problem with the fact that they're being stepped on. And at some point they're going to look at the king ant, who has the only person who really talks on a day-to-day basis with the grasshoppers. At some point, they're going to look at the king ant and they're going to say, hey, nothing's changing. Every day shit is getting worse and worse. We can't afford more and more things. What are you going to do about it? And the Democrats' response is, we're in response to anything that Trump has to do. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they respond with saying, we're going to choose how we respond in a very specific way in our specific time and place that we decide. And this specific thing that has gone too far beyond the red line that we set previously, actually, we don't care about that much, or at least not enough to actually do anything about it. So instead, we, again, are going to reiterate that we will choose the fight when we want. And when we want will be at a time that we designate. Like there's no backbone. There's no consistency in anything they say. There's no moral belief in anything they say, because they aren't actually defending the side of progressive values. They're not actually defending the side of that would lift up the masses and lift up the majority of people that need to be lifted up. They're defending the capital interests. They're defending Zionism. They're defending the state of Israel, being able to do a genocide and being able to start wars all over the Middle East to be able to kill brown people, because we got to kill brown people. It's not a good day in Western culture if we don't kill brown people. And again, you see the same thing in the UK with certain members with Star Armors Labour, for example, of them serving the same capitalist interests.
And the question is, will the Democratic leadership learn from his campaign? I doubt it. I think they would rather go down with
I doubt it.
Than give up the fact that they are captains of the boat.
Bernie says, as you pointed out, Bernie says after being pushed out of the race from all of the establishment Democrats for Hillary, like you said earlier. Yeah, I'm sure Bernie thinks that the established Democrats will have a really big change of heart.
It doesn't really matter what they think. What Zohran's campaign showed is that people are prepared to stand up and fight for change. We're
so
seeing
cute.
that in the fighting.
Look at that face.
We saw it last week. Millions of people came out to the No King rally. People understand that our political and economic system is broken, that the rich get richer and millions of people are struggling to put food on the table. They understand the two parties today are not responding to their needs. They want something different. And I think Zohran touched on that reality.
I think some people may know this part of your bio, but some may not, which is that you were a congressman for Vermont, the at-large. There's one district. You are obviously a U.S. senator. Before that, you were a mayor in Burlington. And I'm curious, you were a socialist mayor. There's not a ton of them. We don't have a really long list of socialist mayors in America. So from one former socialist mayor to a man who may be a socialist mayor, one of the things I think about that job, whatever size municipality you're governing is, you really got to deliver for people. Like, you're not taking votes, right? So people are going to see very tangibly, like, is this working or not? And I'm curious how you think about
as opposed to, any other leader of a city, any other elected official. As a socialist, we actually care about your results. If you were a capitalist, we wouldn't care about your results because you'd be defending capitalism and capitalist interests. But since you're a socialist, we need you to show results, and we need you to be able to prove that you can bring in money, and we need you to be able to prove all of these things that we would never ask anybody else to prove.
Advice you would offer from that perspective, which is very different than being a senator or legislator?
Well, I just spoke to Zohran a little while ago, and I had some thoughts about it's going to be a very hard job. I mean, running any big city in America today with all of the crises that municipalities are facing is just not easy. And he's going to have to think long and hard about how you can run that city in a way that really works well for working people. But what I did as mayor of Burlington, and I was reelected three times, taking on...
I think that's about all I care about from Bernie Sanders on this one. But again, just wanted to bring up the Bernie point, the Bernie reaction of a Democrat who is willing to come out and endorse Zohran Mamdani, as opposed to placate and say, oh, I haven't talked to him yet, so I don't know if I can really get behind him. I wanted to bring this up specifically to highlight what it looks like to fall in line. As Bernie just said, Zohran's campaign has shown a mandate of the people, not only just for social policies, for populist policies, but also for this specific individual himself. Again, this was a campaign that he won, not necessarily his ideas, and the party needs to fucking fall in line. The idea that they are not, getting fully behind the first beacon of hope, I think is absolutely disgusting, and they should be held accountable. I, as far as I'm concerned, they are complicit in the happenings of the Republican Party. Every minute that they are talking about not supporting Zohran Mamdani is an opportunity for the Republicans to try to undermine Zohran Mamdani. Every moment Chuck Schumer twiddles his thumbs and puts his entire throat around Israel, the longer that he does that instead of talking about Zohran Mamdani, is more opportunities for his enemies to try to get ahead of the bully pulpit that he has and try to sway the integrity of the people behind this movement. Fight an establishment with words. Yeah, no, it's incredible hearing him talk. I am going to jump to his actual interview so we can listen to the man, the myth, the legend, Zohran Mamdani.
Poised to win the Democratic primary for New York City, beating out former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's now set to head to the general election, but his likely primary win is already sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party. And joining me now is Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thank you so much.
I pause it right here only to, and it absolutely is great to hear anyone fighting an establishment words that are fully their own. Again, I say that to present this interview with Zohran that just came out. When was this? Yesterday? The 29th. The 29th. I'm excited for this. Keep in mind, it is an NBC interview. This is NBC, not Fox News. This is NBC, generally not a super far right organization.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. There is so much to discuss. We have to start with your remarkable victory in the primary for mayor. You're 33 years old. As I just said, you started out at close to 0% in the polls, Mr. Mamdani. You came back to topple one of the biggest names in New York politics, Andrew Cuomo. What was the secret to your success? Do you think it was your message? Do you think that voters were voting against Andrew Cuomo? A little bit of both? How do you see it?
Really quick before he answers, I just want to I've arrived to get rid of the dead. I've arrived to get rid of the dead wood. I've come to dismantle the means of production. I've come to rip away the boards of oppression that line the streets of New York City, in every sewer, in every alley. Actually, that's a lie. New York doesn't really have alleys. That's my beef with New York as opposed to Chicago. Chicago, when they were building it, they built it wide enough so that the buildings could have alleys in between so they could put dumpsters in between the buildings. New York doesn't have space in between the buildings to have dumpsters, so they have to throw all the trash onto the street and rats get everywhere. Replace Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. I dream of such a day. That day makes me happy. I wanted to pause this. I dream of that day quite often. That's a good day. I'm really hoping somebody primaries Chuck Schumer. I don't know, like maybe AOC, and gets him out of his position of power. Hopefully she would decide to start doing things once she actually has a position of power. I mean, that's pretty, I would say, a cop-out. Like, she's, I would say, probably in terms of a bully pulpit position, the most powerful Democrat again. But I wanted to pause it here specifically for the framing of this question of trying to pit enemies between Zohran, Andrew, trying to frame his win in a takeover of Andrew Cuomo, and frame it in a established Democrat framework. Let's see how he responds.
I think ultimately it was the focus on the fact that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. It's also the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty, and the rest are seemingly trapped in a state of anxiety. And what we've seen is that this is a city that needs to be affordable for the people who build it every day. Our focus was on exactly that, and by keeping that focus on an economic agenda, we showed New Yorkers that this could be more than just a museum of what once was. It could be a living, breathing testament to possibility.
Don't even put his name in your mouth, Zohran. There is no reason for you to even say the name Andrew Cuomo. There's no reason for you to talk about him unless you are, I don't know, making fun of him. Unless you are talking about, I don't know, how dead his eyes look. He kind of has like that, like shark look in his eyes, like sort of like a glazed over thing about him. But what does he do instead of gloating over the fact that he beat Andrew Cuomo? The first thing that he does is turn it back to the affordability crisis that New York faces. New York citizens, the people of New York, do not care about hearing about how he beat Andrew Cuomo and about how he's better than Andrew Cuomo. New Yorkers want to hear about what he is specifically going to do to fix the problems that they face. And he does exactly that. He doesn't put his name in his mouth. Instead, all he does is, again, immediately direct it to the affordability crisis and talk about what he's going to do and what the hope behind his message and campaign is to solve that. We'll be seeing him praises. I don't know if they will be singing him praises. I hope that they will, but I maintain, I think, surely, like, all of the big media conglomerates, they're just handed out, like, a piece of paper that has the list of their talking points on them. Like, maybe I'm just, fair. Maybe I'm just upset right now because, again, I've watched a lot of interviews and they've all asked just the same questions. But no, it would be really nice for them to actually get behind him. Hopefully, eventually, if anything, the media at some point in terms of ratings will be able to see that popular coverage of Zohran will be better for them overall as opposed to negative coverage. But who knows if that's able to beat out like the inherent like rage bait drive that people have from watching the news in general. But again, his response was just absolutely perfect. And I dream of the day in which media will be giving him the praise in which he deserves.
Well, let me ask you about what I was just discussing with Senator Chris Murphy. The fact that you have leaders Schumer, leaders Hakeem Jeffrey, who wrote very nice things about your victory, said you'd won a very strong campaign, have not endorsed you. Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed you. Do you think the Democratic establishment is afraid of you?
I think that people are catching up to this election. This is an election that went against so much of the analysis that had been told about our party and where we needed to head to. And ultimately, what we're showing is that by putting working people first, by returning to the roots of the Democratic Party, we actually have a path out of this moment where we're facing authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
Well,
I'm so cringe for the pause, play-by-play, but again, like, this bringing up of Chuck Schumer and the Hakeem Jeffries and the framing of this way to try to incite some inner party drama between Zohran and the established Democrats. And what does he do? Does he say any of their names? Does he talk about the established Democrats? No, he says that the citizens of New York woke up to what reality could be. And they saw that in this campaign, and they got fucking behind it. They got fucking in line, and they made it a reality. They made it happen themselves, and it's a mandate of the people. You know, as our dear God King president likes to gloat about his popular vote being a mandate of the people, therefore gets to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. I guess Zohran Mamdani gets to do what he wants to do. He won with the mandate of the people.
let's talk about your policies, your vision for this city. Here are some of the things you've proposed. Free buses, rent-stabilized housing,
Based.
a $30 minimum wage,
Based.
creation of city-owned grocery stores.
Fuck
It's
yeah.
a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you, if you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be?
The first thing is living up to these promises that I have made, because I've made them because I intend to keep them. And in a city of about 8.5 million people, close to 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized housing. The mayor, through a board called the Rent Guidelines Board, sets whether or not those rents increase or stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. This one, led by Mayor Adams, increased it by 9%. So the
that's
first
cool.
thing that I would do is start to
That's really cool.
constitute
I
a
love
board
that.
votes in reflection of reality. And the reality I'm speaking of is that the median household income of those tenants is $60,000 a year. The landlords of those units have seen their profits increase by 12%. It's time for relief for working class New Yorkers.
Okay.
Oh, that
Of
smile.
course, the big
What a
question is how
lovely
you're gonna
smile.
Pay for it.
There it is. There it is. Anytime anybody wants to do anything for the betterment of society in general, as opposed to for the betterment of capital owners and the betterment of the military-industrial complex, how are you going to pay for it? These are not questions that are being asked when it comes to the funding of Israel, at least not from, mainstream media. When it comes to a $20 billion military package being sent over to another country, while our roads go to shit, while our veterans starve and freeze and have heat stroke in the street, while we have the largest incarceration rate of anywhere in the world per capita, and those people in jail are being victimized and put in obscene conditions, especially during the summer heat wave that's coming through right now. Again, how are you going to pay for free buses? How are you going to manage to do that?
Proposed increasing taxes on wealthier New Yorkers. The Democratic governor, though, of your state, Kathy Hochul, says she's not going to support increasing taxes in order to get it across the finish line. I want to let you take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say recently and respond on the other side. Here she is.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting taxes.
Wealthy.
I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
Coward.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign.
So
And
good.
ultimately, we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think
So, again, the idea of capital flight is absolutely ridiculous and false. I'm not surprised Trump attacked this guy as quickly as he did on social media. Me neither. You know, like, again, like, Trump falls into the category of feigning populism for the benefit of himself, as opposed to yeah, it looks like he was made in a lab. Like I said, I don't know how he does it aside from just being. Hang on, let me.
you're going to be able
I wanted to get a cuter face. That wasn't doing justice to him. No, like, he's incredibly consistent. He's incredibly diligent in his the framing that he has. He's got absolutely incredible answers. The fact that he has these answers ready to go without any misspeak, without any stepping over himself. I can't string together 2 sentences without having some kind of as I stutter here on microphone. You know, he's sitting there cool as a cucumber, rap legend Zohran Mamdani. But this idea of capital flight, of New Yorkers running away from this city that they do business in, the cultural and the financial epicenter of the United States of America. The idea that they're going to leave to do business somewhere else is ridiculous. And aside from that, the people that are making $1 million more a year, which honestly, $1 million doesn't always get you that far in New York, depending on where you are, depending on how fucked you are. But the people that are making $1 million or more a year, you already have the problem of, you know, 6-monthers, the population of the wealthy who spend 6 months in a day in Palm Beach, Florida, so they don't have to pay the same New York tax rates. You already have the billionaires who are donating X amount of money to be able to get away with doing X amount of tax cuts. Like, it's already a system that the rich is gaming every opportunity that they get. This lie of capital flight is simply something that capitalists use to make sure that we don't try to go, or that the populace doesn't try to go after the dragon whores that they have in place. Like, why would there's a grocery store owner. I can't remember the name of the grocery store, and I don't care enough to look it up, because he's a Trumper and can eat shit. And what was it? He specifically said that if Zohran was going to be elected, then he was going to close down all of his stores, and he was going to move out of the city. So what's your point, or what's your answer to that, and what's your response to that guy? Like, okay, so this person's going to shut down their chain of grocery stores, and they're going to end it all just to get away from, again, the biggest city in terms of culture and finance in America. Like, yeah, he's ultra, like, what, you're that dedicated to running away that you're going to leave and where are you going to take your stores? Is there a need for your stores in other places? But the idea of, again, the ultra wealthy running away because they're going to have to pay an extra $40,000 on top of their taxes when they already have $10 million in annual yearly income going into their bank account. It's absolutely ridiculous. However, that money, when pooled together from all those wealthy individuals and put towards social programs for the people, we see an actual difference, an actual change in the city and in itself. You mentioned JMO. You had a comment earlier. I want to see if I can find it. What was it? Quality of life can improve for both top and bottom class in the same place. Was a comment you made earlier, and you're absolutely right. A part of the quality of life being improved for the top percent. You know, the number one thing that people or wealthy people love to complain about in places like San Francisco is the homeless population. How the homeless, the victims who are in terrible circumstances and are consistently beaten, abused, and put down by the masses. Rich people in San Francisco, they look at the homeless people as, a plight on the city, as a problem that needs to be exterminated, as people that need to be arrested for breaking the law because, they're sleeping outside. When in reality, as I said, they're just people down on their luck trying to do the best that they can in a shitty situation. But, you talk about quality of life improving. I'm sure they would call it these rich people would call it a quality of life improvement if all of the homeless people that they get disgusted and sick to their stomach about just by having to see, if they were lifted to where they didn't have to live on the street and could actually have homes and could actually have places that they could go to, I'm sure they would consider that a quality of life improvement, as like they would consider less trash in the streets to be a quality of life improvement, as I'm sure that they would consider having, clean infrastructure and well run and maintained streets and sidewalks in their city to be a quality of life improvement. Like there's all kinds of quality of life improvements that can come for both the top and bottom, but it doesn't come from trickle down economics. It has to come from a bottom up approach. Otherwise, it just ends up being resources that get hedged off through middlemen every opportunity that they can in order to get themselves a slice of the pie.
Able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor, because ultimately,
so inclusive.
Policies,
He's so
vision,
good.
It's driven by an assessment of what's actually happening. The Fiscal Policy Institute found that the top 1% of New Yorkers leave at 1/4 the rate of other income groups. And when they do leave, it's actually to other states considered high tax, New Jersey, California. So it's not fiscal policy, it's quality of life. And ultimately, the reason I want to increase these taxes on the top 1%, the most profitable corporations, is to increase quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed.
Here's how the Washington Post editorial board wrote about your proposals. They say a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. His rent freeze would reduce the housing supply and decrease its quality. Cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer.
I could tell you all the things that Zohran's going to say, but I'm going to let him do it because he can say it better than I can. The only thing that I want to say is a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. There's never been a single time in which the minimum wage discussion happening, when the minimum wage increase is brought up, it always the argument always becomes, well, that would depress low-skilled employment. That's going to overall hurt the economy. It's not going to be beneficial in the long run. Every single time there's ever been a minimum wage increase, those jobs stay the same. Those jobs still need to be done. All that happens is you increase the buying power of the people that don't normally have any buying power. All you're doing is increasing funds. Listen, I've been studying velocity of money and income for a total of about like 4, maybe 5 hours. So I'm obviously an expert. But what I've learned is, generally speaking, you want money to move as much as possible. Generally speaking, the more money moves, the more money changes hands, the better that is going to be not only for the people that collect taxes on that money, but also is going to be more beneficial for the people that are actively using that money. As they see an increase in those taxes being accumulated, they see better benefits for their communities at large, which in return increases their overall well-being and their overall quality of life. I don't remember what I said half a second ago, but as I was saying, massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. It's a fallacy. It's a lie. It's not rooted in anything real. It's not rooted in anything factual. Oh yes, velocity of money. The more money moves, the better it is for everybody. And the dragon hoarding of resources at the tippy top does nothing but freeze up that money, not allowing it to actually accumulate any sort of taxes for the government to be able to use in any way whatsoever. It again solely enriches one person. Solely for the benefit of their continued enrichment, as we see from the speculative market, using speculation to be able to enrich yourself to further points. The least we can do is give people fucking $30 an hour. As anybody who actually has a job that pays $15 an hour, like the idea that we're fighting for a $15 minimum wage still is absolutely ridiculous. The minimum wage being $15 an hour wouldn't help barely anybody. Most places I know at this point have a $15 minimum wage, unless you're in specific parts of town, even in specific low-income towns. And even in those towns, there's usually at this point an Amazon facility that's gone in and completely uprooted the job market of that town and taken all of the skilled labor that they can for, pennies on the dollar compared to other places. The fact that he's actually fighting for a $30 minimum wage that would actually be beneficial to people's material conditions in a way that isn't just increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour gets you from, I think, $16,000 a year to up to about $32,000 a year. That doesn't do shit in America. That's absolutely, those are starvation wages. When you live in a country in which that doesn't pay for a single bedroom apartment in any city that's out there, $15 minimum wage is not going to cut it. And the fact that we're still fighting for that at a federal level is absolutely ridiculous. And a $30 minimum wage is the absolute least that people should be asking for. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as I've seen in terms of actual survivability income, in terms of a wage that would not only allow you to be able to afford the place that you need to live, but also be able to give you savings that you can help build towards your retirement, and or purchasing house, and or building up the American dream. That rests at about $36 an hour on average, depending on where you're living. But again, like $30 an hour is not that much to ask for. All that to say, the rest of this stuff I'll let Zohran talk about.
That unless somehow filled with a road service, meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mamdani, are your proposals going to hurt the very people you're trying to help?
Not at all. There have been many in editorial board who have had concerns, and what we've shown is that more than 400,000 New Yorkers are excited about this vision. And the reason they're excited about it is one that is in line with the scale of the crisis in this city. I mean, we are talking about our tax base growing smaller and smaller each day, with New Yorkers leaving to New Jersey, to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut. If we do not meet this moment, we will lose this city. And our proposals are ones that are thought out. They are ones that are also clearly going to be funded by these revenue streams. I'll give you an example.
Please
when
do.
we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas, We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
Well, you take me to my next question about grocery stores. Some executives, including
he's so
one of the
good.
top grocery stores owners, billionaires threatening to shut down his
Oh,
supermarket. in the city.
here it is. I
John
was just talking about
Catsimatidis,
this.
who runs Gristedes grocery chain. You're probably very familiar with him.
Gristedes, this
he
fucker.
said this on Election Day, quote, "If the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations." In order to run New York City successfully as mayor, do you not need the support of a billionaire businessman like John Catsimatidis?
I don't know if I need his support specifically, but I want to make clear that my vision for this city is a vision for every single New Yorker, including business leaders across the city. And the reason I say that is that my proposals, even the ones to increase the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, are ones that would also benefit those business leaders. Because when I have conversations with them, what I also hear is the just how expensive this city is preventing them from attracting and retaining the talent they need to grow their business. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to having those meetings, having those sit-downs to make clear why this vision would benefit all.
We went on your
He's so good. He's so talented. Again, putting it all back to the affordability crisis, not only pointing, you on Meet the Press, you can't just, look at the person sitting across. I mean, I guess you could, but it wouldn't behoove you in his position to look across the aisle and look at them and say, "You're lying, you scummy pink suit wearing. You're lying about Capital Flight. Who gives a fuck about Gristedes owner threatening to leave and ruin his company over the idea of some socialist policies being put in place in the most or one of the most income inequality ridden cities in the world." But again, what does Zohran do? He turns it back to the affordability crisis. He doesn't make an enemy out of billionaires. He talks about how he's excited to work with billionaires to figure out solutions to the problems, while also not conceding on the point that there's an affordability crisis that's not only affecting, affecting New Yorkers to a point that people cannot afford to live in the city, and they're losing an entirely other separate tax structure base of the middle class, of the lower class, that are being priced out of the city, that are being forced to move to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, other places, because they can't afford to live in New York City anymore because of how expensive it is. And so again, what does he do? He takes it back to what his campaign is promising. He takes it back to the policies that he has ready to be put in place. He takes it back to the promises that he's told people about, and explains exactly how he's going, not only explains exactly how he's going to produce those actualities, but he also explains exactly why it is feasible and why it's going to be beneficial every opportunity that he gets. And it's incredible that he is, again, so disciplined in his communication.
Website and realize there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not
Wow, brown guy bringing up white. Brown guy bringing up white people.
by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed.
Okay, so it's just a
We've
description.
seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on, saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes, and yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
You've already answered the question. Okay, cool. I heard your answer to my question. Let me reframe it to you. Make sure I understand it properly. Okay, I do understand it properly. Let me ask again. Why don't you like white people?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
Like it sounds like her argument is, I'm sorry, are you saying that there's such a thing as gerrymandering? Are you saying redlining exists? Like, I don't really know who she's asking this question for, because anybody who's going to care about this NBC interview from a Democratic standpoint isn't really, I don't think, going to be that upset about him drawing a correlation between high-income, low-tax neighborhoods that are made up of predominantly white people. Like, I don't really see that. Like, I don't really see majority of Democrats getting hung up on that correlation. Like, if you're a Democrat, surely you already have an understanding of like how redlining works, and like the not only like the repercussions of it, but also like the makeup of who it benefits. Like, it's just pretty. He's just describing it.
So no plans to change that language on your website.
The focus here is to
I'm
actually
sorry, did she-
undertaxing others and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language.
Jesus Christ! So that's 3 times that she's asking him. All right, so you're fine. You're sure you want to keep the white people thing in there?
On your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right. You are a self-described
Jesus
Democratic
Christ! All
socialist.
right, moving on then.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Inclusionary. He's so inclusionary. He wants to work with the billionaires instead of just eating the billionaires.
Well, let me ask you about what Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has had to say. He's had a lot to say about your campaign. He called you a communist. Because he's the president, I want to give you a chance to respond directly to him.
Oh,
How
thank
do
you.
Respond?
Oh, that's
Are
so
you a
kind of you, lady.
communist?
No, I am not. And I have already had to start to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for.
I don't care what, we don't care what Trump has to say, because, we're NBC, and we don't care what he has to say about these things. But he said you're a communist. What do you have to say about that? Like, we don't care what Trump has to say, but he says you're a communist. Are you a communist?
And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower that he has since then betrayed. And when we talk about my politics, I call myself a democratic socialist in many ways inspired by the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there has to be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And as income inequality has declined nationwide, it has increased in New York City. And ultimately, what we need is a city where every single person can thrive.
All right. Stay right there. We are going to take a quick break. More of
Oh,
our
a quick
exclusive.
break.
We are back here live in New York with State Assemblyman and the presumptive Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani. Thank you so much for sticking around for more questions. Let's talk about immigration, deportation. Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades. It's a policy that had previously been defended by Democrats and Republicans alike until the fear-mongering of this current mayor. And it's a policy that we've seen ensures that New Yorkers can get out of the shadows and into the full life of the city that they belong to. And it's one that I will be proud to stand up for.
Well,
The reason why sanctuary cities have always had bipartisan support from both Republicans and Democrats alike is because, generally speaking, if you have migrant communities that do not feel safe in which they can talk to police due to fears of being deported at a moment's notice, then you run the risk of those communities having a much higher rate of crime as when they don't come forward from a place of fear. As they don't come forward, you have more crime happening. You have more victims being created. And so the creation of sanctuary cities comes from a place of creating a safety net in order to have opportunities for citizens to come forward, for undocumented to come forward for a matter of public safety.
You know, the border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is planning to deploy ICE agents to New York, worksite enforcement to essentially increase and enhance the number of ICE agents here. If that happens on your watch, how do you plan to handle it?
We have to stand up and fight back, and we haven't seen that from our current mayor, who has instead been working with the Trump administration to assist in their goal of building the single largest deportation force in American history. I mean, we saw ICE agents arrest a migrant at Federal Plaza, and then we saw NYPD officers arresting a pastor who was peacefully observing that arrest. Those days are going to come to an end when I'm the mayor. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to assist ICE agents in their mission to attack the very fabric of this city.
I want to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy. If you were to win, you would become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Along the way, throughout the course of this primary campaign, you have received death threats. You've received all sorts of attacks online. Congressman Andy Ogles called for you to be deported, for example, because you were born in Uganda. He also issued an Islamophobic epithet, which I am not going to repeat here. But what type of toll has this taken on you personally and on your family?
It's been difficult. It's been difficult to have to deal with the regular and repeated smears and slander upon my name and on the very basis of my faith. And I think what's so sad is that this is but a glimpse into what life is like for many Muslim New Yorkers and many New Yorkers of different faiths who are constantly being told that they don't belong in this city and in this country that they love. And ultimately, what continues to give me hope is that these moments are but small examples, something that goes against what so many New Yorkers actually feel. Because what we know is that this is a city for all of us. And what Tuesday night showed is that what New Yorkers want more than anything is a vision that binds us all together.
I want to ask you about an issue that has divided some New Yorkers in recent weeks. You were recently asked about the term globalize the intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable.
Here we
in
go.
that moment, you did not condemn
Here we
the
go.
phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language
So-
that I use. The language that
When you have questions like this, you know, I liken this to, this is where I like to bring up stories like One Piece. One Piece is a story in which you have a organization called the World Government that actively works to put a boot down on the necks of its citizenry and populace of the world, to collect taxes, to collect resources, and take those resources to give to a collection of individuals who have been deemed better than the general populace for some reason that is unknown. Generally speaking, though, very much shows the root, shows capitalism in not a very great light. Now, with One Piece, the framing of right and wrong is interesting because the world government has a military force called the Marines. It's called the Navy, and it's made up by the Marines. Now, in this system of the Marines, oh God, where is it going with this? Oh yes. Now in this world, the Marines have a symbol that they wear on their cape. They wear a symbol of justice. Now, wearing a symbol of justice on your back, what that implies generally is that no matter what action you take, it is in the name of justice. So, for example, let's say you are, I don't know, a force, let's say that you are a Marine who is going in and you are tearing up a town because that town didn't pay you the proper resources in order to placate the celestial dragons and the tribute requirements. They are doing so because you have broken the law, and what they are doing is right, and what you are doing is wrong. Because, again, you broke the law. They get to dictate what is the law because they were justice on the backs. They get to dictate what is right and wrong while ignoring the standpoints of bringing joy versus suffering, bringing happiness versus causing pain to others. In this story, you have a character named Luffy. Luffy does everything he can to appease his carnal instincts. He's a guy with an IQ of, I think, about 2, maybe 3. He's not a very bright person, but he's really good at toppling oppressive structures. When he sees oppressive structures, he gets very upset, especially when those oppressive structures get in the way of his happiness, or even worse, his friend's happiness. Now, in order to be a friend, you just have to give the guy food. It doesn't take much. If you're a generally kind person and you give him food, you're pretty much good to go. It's very vibes-based with Luffy. I've got him. Oh, can you see it? I got him right there on my arm. I don't know if you can see it very well, but he's there. Now, Luffy, because he is going against the world government, it's very easy. The organization that sets the permission structures, the organization that not only enables but also creates the violence that is put against the people. Luffy, in his work to save his friends and bring about happiness to everyone he can, could very easily be called and designated a terrorist. Now, when you are asked things like, do you denounce terrorism, for example, that has a very loaded meaning, especially when you are the New York City Democratic nominee for the mayoral race. To just go out there and say that you denounce terrorism, for example, does not fully encapsulate all of the different ways in which that word can be applied. As we see right now, as we see victims of Israel being labeled terrorists, as we see victims of the fascist and authoritarian government, like Mahmoud Khalil, being designated as terrorists at times, to simply denounce terrorism when, again, we see forces of good, like Luffy, for example, in the One Piece world, to simply say that you denounce something in this way is a very simplistic way of looking at it, and a very important structure for the framing of this interview in terms of who they are interviewing for. This is not simply a matter of, do you denounce global intifada? This is a matter of, will you on live TV right now bend the knee to Israel in front of everyone for all of us to see? Will you please kiss the ring so that we can focus on, killing more Palestinian children and bombing Iran as much as possible? To simply, again, denounce global antifada completely discounts the Palestinian plight. I don't think he does here. I really hope that he turns the response back towards the Palestinians and towards the importance of bringing to light the structures of violence that Palestinians are currently being put through. But to simply denounce global antifada is, as this reporter knows, a more loaded question than it simply sounds being framed in this exact moment here.
That phrase, globalize the intifada.
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief that freedom and justice and safety are things that, to have meaning, have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But do you
Good question, or good answer. He covered all his bases. He covered the fact that he specifically wants to support all New Yorkers. He wants to make sure that he represents all New Yorkers, Palestinian, Jewish alike. I would say a pretty well surmised answer. I wonder if this is going to be asked again in the same way, expecting a different answer.
You actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city.
I think that's the first time I've seen him misspeak. Was that little moment right there? The first time I've ever seen him blink on camera, and that was all that happened.
About this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why in my campaign I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech. Ultimately, what I think I need to show is the ability to not only talk about something, but to tackle it and to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in this city. We have to root out that bigotry, and ultimately we do that through the actions, and that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
But quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
Jesus Christ, lady. Oh my God.
Is to start to walk down the line.
Oh my, how many times do you need to ask the same question?
What language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed,
say it.
putting
Just
them in jail
kiss
for
Israel.
protesting.
Kiss Israel on the
Ultimately,
lips.
It's not language that I use. It's language I understand there are concerns about. And what I will do is showcase my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
I don't remember them asking Eric Adams when he was running for mayor if he was going to make sure that every single Muslim youth felt safe in his city. I don't remember them asking Brad Lander on the debate stage what he was going to be doing to make sure that all Muslim youth felt safe in the city. Is this a matter of going to make sure that you keep Jewish youth and Jewish individuals safe, or is this a matter of you want to continue conflating Zionism with anti-Semitism, or rather denouncement of Zionism to anti-Semitism? And you're doing everything you can to continue the war machine, the genocide machine that is Israel. Asking this question this many times, despite him giving good answers each and every time, is absolutely ridiculous, especially on a program like NBC. Like, this isn't Fox News, it's NBC, and they're digging into him, harping on, are you going to make sure that every Jewish person feels safe in every neighborhood in every community of New York? Again, where are these questions for? I don't remember anybody asking Donald Trump if he was going to make sure that every single trans youth felt safe in this country. And if they did, I don't think anybody cared about it. But I certainly don't remember them making demands that he commits to that answer 3-4 times in the course of 30 seconds. Like, Jesus Christ, woman, can you please get Zionism and Israel out of the back of your throat, please? That would be really lovely.
Let me ask you broadly. Your surprise victory has some progressive Democrats saying, boy, you may have determined the model for the Democratic Party nationally in this moment. Do you think your campaign represents the playbook for how to win in the Trump era for Democrats?
I think it showcases a new approach to politics in our city, and it's for others to decide across our country. Ultimately, what we wanted to do from the very beginning of this race was change our political instinct from lecturing to listening. And after the presidential election, where we saw New York be the state in the nation with the largest swing towards Donald Trump, 11.5 points, and we saw that swing took place far from the caricatures of Trump voters, I went to those hearts of immigrant New York City that were the fulcrum of those swings, Hillside Avenue in Queens, Fordham Road in the Bronx, and I asked Democrats, who did you vote for and why? And I heard from them again and again, I voted for Donald Trump because I could afford things that are now out of my reach today. And ultimately, when I asked them what would it take to bring you back to the Democratic Party, they said a relentless focus on an economic agenda. And that's the campaign that we built.
Do you think that your apparent victory is a sign that there is an appetite for young progressives like a Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to run for president in 2028?
It's an honor to be endorsed by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and to have been represented by her for so many years, because she's showcased so much of what we're trying to do in this campaign. The ability to not only stand up and fight, but also to win. And ultimately, what people want to see is someone who doesn't just believe in something, but can deliver on those things. And now, especially more than ever, we need to be a party that's not just against Donald Trump, but also for something. And our campaign was for working people, for bringing dignity back into those lives. And that's what the Congresswoman has showed time and again.
I can't let you go without doing a little bit of local politics.
Please.
So Mayor Eric Adams already in the general election as an independent candidate. We're waiting to see if Andrew Cuomo officially throws his hat into the ring. Do you think you can win if the two of them are in the race? Can you beat both of them?
Absolutely. We can beat anyone that's in this race, because what we've shown is that this is a campaign that has the support of more than 400,000 New Yorkers. In the first round of Tuesday night, we got more votes than Eric Adams did by the last round of 2021. And ultimately, it's a referendum on how he made this city so unaffordable. For too long, politicians have pretended to simply be bystanders to a cost of living crisis. They've actually exacerbated it. And our vision is one that will respond to it and make this a city affordable for every New Yorker.
All right. Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for the conversation. Really
so good.
appreciate it. Please stay safe.
He's so good.
Thank you so much for having me.
He's so good. Let me find a cute face to. That's not a cute face. Never mind. That's wrong. They're all cute faces. Oh man, where'd he go?
Of the neighborhood.
All right.
That'll work. Absolutely best viewers on streamboo.com. Ooh, thank you, first time chat. I'm sure you're a real person that I care about. Zohran Mamdani is the great hope. He's as far as I'm concerned, the beacon of light in the very, very dark stormy sea that we find ourselves on a daily basis. And I personally believe that unless we fully get behind Zohran Mamdani and support him with every fiber that we can, we are going to continue to go down this feckless, baseless, no backbone having Democrat establishment that will simply lead us directly into the concentration camps that await us in, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a year. Make sure to tell all of your friends that they can support Zohran Mamdani at zohranfornyc.org. You can also volunteer by going to his website, another great organization to work with phone banking, to work with all kinds of volunteer opportunities, to work with helping those who have been picked up by ICE is progress.win, working with Progressive Victory, absolutely phenomenal organization that can take in, that works with the people to support left-leaning, populist, progressive policies. And there's no time to fight like the present. As we lose more and more rights, those are going to simply be harder to get back. And as we see 17 million Americans losing health care in the next coming months and years due to the passing of the big, beautiful bill put forward by Congress, it's going to be more important than ever to have systems in place in which mutual aid are possible, in which we have social safety nets. And again, Democrats ain't gonna do shit. So far, at least Zohran's doing shit. You know, we'll see what happens. Please, put your faith in Zohran for a bit. We'll see where it gets us. I'm going to take a break and go to the bathroom really quickly, and when I come back, I'm going to do some stuff for a couple of clips. I'm going to talk about a couple of cheese things, and then I'm going to read the new One Piece chapter that I've been putting off for a couple of days. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Peace out.
Right.
Nope, wrong thing I wanted to do. Thank you so much, everybody. Be right back. Hello, hello, hello. I am back. Let's keep a little bit of music. The slightest bit of music. Hope you can hear that decently. I don't know if you can hear that off. We'll just go ahead and turn that off. Hello! I am back. I am here. I am... I guess I'm kind of queer. I don't really know. Who cares? I have cheese. So for, cheese! Hello, welcome in. I have cheese. I've come bearing great gifts. Bearing beautiful gifts. Hang on, I look like a vampire right now. This is just so bright. Oh, God. How do I turn the background black on this? How are you doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. Selection, select all. How do I set up a background? Favorite color? No. What's that? Anyway. I am here to talk about some cheese. More specifically, I'm here to farm some clips and make some clips for social media purposes. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. We've been talking about Zohran Mamdani all night. I just got back from a short break. and I came back bearing cheese. I am on an endeavor, you see. I have been working for many, many years, and I have lost interest in trying to maintain any kind of interest in capitalist structures. The system sucks. System's no fun. And I would like to try to get away from that. In that endeavor, I am trying to start my own cheese business, a cheese business called the Cheese Weeb, or I guess Cheese Weeb. It can be found here. We can go to display. Let's go. Nope, not there. Let's go there. We got there. Put that down. Yeah, here's a website. I've started a little cheese business. I am called the Cheese Weeb. I may start a commune. Oh, that's the dream. Who doesn't want a commune, a big old cheese commune? My background is specifically in carpentry and cheese, so I think I'd be fairly useful in a commune setting. But my goal is to create a cheese company. Specifically working in this world that we find ourselves in. I foresee the need for a lot of mutual aid, a lot of community organizing, a lot of need for people to come together. And in my opinion, there's no better way to bring people together other than food. I find myself here in the Georgia area. Thanks for asking. I'm here in Georgia, working on just sort of helping people to the best of my ability. My plan is to, every week, I'm going to be doing what I'm calling the Cheese Weeb Book Club. This is going to consist of me presenting about 3, maybe 4 cheeses, depending on the week. And I'm going to be presenting those cheeses, talking about them, describing the tasting of, or going through a tasting of these cheeses. And through this process, hope to educate as many people about cheese as I can. Build a community around cheese, and hopefully through that process, be able to build a community that fosters mutual aid and fosters teaching empathy to other people, helping the world in general. Aside from doing Cheese Weeb activities, I fill my free time talking about politics, talking about One Piece, playing Pokemon. But that's where the Cheese Weeb Book Club portion comes in. You see, the Cheese Weeb Book Club is I'm going to start by presenting several cheeses and talking about those cheeses. And after I'm done talking about those cheeses, I'm then going to move on to my next passion, which I'm going to be reacting live to the various chapters of One Piece as they come out. One Piece is a story about pirates trying to survive on the high seas under an oppressive world government. And they do so through tales of adventure and friendship lighting the way. And so through One Piece and cheese and fostering community, I hope to try to hopefully make something better. Hopefully, again, teach people about cheese. Hopefully, bring an interest to people about watching One Piece. Hopefully, change people's minds about stepping away from the throes of capitalism, instead endorsing ideas of a more ethical system such as communism. Fun things like that. But yeah. I'm here today. Earlier tonight I was talking about Zohran Mamdani. Now I'm just sort of here farming clips. Specifically, excuse me 1 second. I've got something in my throat, unfortunately. It's causing quite a bit of strain for me. But at the moment, I am farming some clips, as you would say. I just launched my social media the other week, Cheese Weeb on Instagram. And I've been getting started here on Twitch. I had one stream a couple days ago in which it was sort of just a, introductory practice stream, get the jitters out. And then I had a stream a couple days ago. This time, after that stream, I remembered to make sure to select the setting that saved the stream once I was done streaming, so I didn't lose that one. So I have my first stream that's I'm going to be posting the full VOD onto my YouTube channel, and then I have this stream that I'm doing tonight, and I'm very excited to start making content out of them, start splicing up videos, start start the machine, start the progress hill of creating a content channel. But a part of that is creating the content itself. And specifically, tonight I have some content called Les Tavas. This is a beautiful cheese coming from Switzerland. Les Tavas is an Alpine style made from raw cow's milk. Oh my goodness. Now, an Alpine style, when it comes to cheese, is specifically a cheese that uses what is known as Alpine cultures. These are cultures, bacteria that typically are found in the Alps in Switzerland. This is where the name Alpine comes from. Another important part of an Alpine style, at least in the traditional sense, is that an Alpine has to go through the process of, oh, hello, thank you. Another important part of the Alpine process is that Alpines specifically have to go through the process of alpage. Now, alpage, also known as transhumance, is the process in which animals are taken from one elevation up to another elevation. So in the Swiss Alps, you have a lot of mountainous ranges, and through this process of taking animals from one elevation to another, the animals are able to introduce different bacteria, different types of flora into their diet, and this will influence the final result and the final flavor of the cheese in a variety of different ways, dependent on where you're located, again, what type of flora, what type of bacteria are growing in these places. And so with Swiss cheeses, you have a lot of depth and of flavor. Now, with cheeses from Switzerland, there's a lot of different factors that go into the aging of the cheese, that go into the flavor profile of the cheese. This is specifically an Alpine style called Les Tavas. Now, this comes from Switzerland, is made from raw cow's milk, and is specifically a type of Gruyere style wheel. Gruyere, if you're not familiar, comes from Switzerland as well. It's a incredibly popular cheese. Now, when it comes to Gruyere, there's different types of Gruyere that you will typically see at the store. There's Gruyere, and it will just say Gruyere, nothing else. Sometimes it'll say cave-aged Gruyere and nothing else. Generally speaking, if it does not say Gruyere Alpage, Gruyere AOP, or Les Gruyere, then it did not come from Switzerland. If it just says cave-aged Gruyere and it doesn't have any denomination, it doesn't have any association or any particular notoriety associated with it, then it is not necessarily made in Switzerland. Gruyere, several years ago in North Carolina, lost a common use case, a fair use case when it comes to the copyright, in which the Swiss government was trying to get better name protection for Gruyere. A judge in North Carolina was able to block this in the States, specifically citing that it was not in line with fair use laws, because there are already so many cheeses that had the Gruyere name in America without actually being associated with the requirements set in place in Switzerland. And so Gruyere, unfortunately, got stifled on the actual name protection for it. Due to this, or rather, a result of this is that you see Gruyères in mass. You see fake Gruyères, and again, this is where you see the cave-aged Gruyere, where it won't have any denomination associated with it or on the label for it. It'll just say cave-aged, which means it can be cave-aged anywhere. It means it can be made anywhere. Some of these Gruyères are simply made in like dairy facilities and cheese facilities in Kansas, in Oklahoma, in various places that you wouldn't necessarily expect cheese or want your cheese, and they're just produced en masse. And so working through, or rather finding cheeses that specifically have the denominations of Les Gruyere or Gruyere AOP, or Gruyere Alpage, ensures that is made in the traditional sense, ensures that is made in Switzerland in the traditional way. But what I have here, again, is Les Tavas. Now, Les Tavas, that is L', ET. It's right there. Let me see if I can. ETIVAZ. That's how you spell. My brain stopped working for a moment. It looks like it won't let me. Let's go. Visit the sellers. This is all in a different language. Floral by nature, life on the pasture, visitor sellers, rent our village hall, Les Tavas. We'll go right here. Again, see we have our Les Tavas AOP label on the cheese here. Now, what I specifically have, this is Les Tavas has been aged for 2 years. So when we have Alpine style cheeses, I mentioned that they go through the process of alpage. This is specifically where the animals are taken from one elevation up to a higher elevation in an effort to get, different bacteria into the diet that produces a different end result, final product of the cheese in terms of flavor, in terms of taste, in terms of texture, all these different factors. So Les Tavas is a wonderful Alpine style cheese. Wonderful Alpine style. Specifically tastes a lot like pineapples. Some Alpine styles have a more tropical fruit flavor profile to them. Les Tavas has a very strong pineapple, very slight mango taste on the front end of it. So let me see if I can get it right there, nice in camera. Has a wonderful pineapple flavor profile to it. The cheese itself, hang on one second. Let me see if I can make this better. Is that better? I think that's a little bit better. So Les Tavas is an unpasteurized cow's milk cheese coming from Switzerland. In terms of flavor of it, it has a very strong pineapple, tropical fruit flavor on the front end. In the middle, it moves into more of a grassy flavor profile with a nice nutty finish to it. Now, this one specifically has been aged for about 2 years. Now, the 2-year age Les Tavas, this one specifically dates back to 2023. Now, with it being aged with it being a wheel from 2023, this one was what I would consider peak condition at about the 1-year mark. That's when it hits its best flavor profile to creaminess, in my opinion. As it gets older, it loses some of the more grassy flavors, and it takes on more of those tropical fruit, pineapple-y, more sharp, more slightly acidic flavors to it. As cheese ages, you get what are called Tyson crystals in them. Now, Tyson crystals you can actually see them in here. Now, have you ever bitten into a piece of cheese and after chewing it for, hang on, let me lower my mic. Have you ever bitten into a piece of cheese and as you're eating it, as you bite into it, you taste something crunchy? This is called a Tyson crystal. This is a protein formation that comes together as goods and cheeses and various products age. You can also find them in prosciutto. When I used to work at an Italian place called Italy, there is an extra age prosciutto that was aged for 48 months. So it was a 4-year-old prosciutto, and when you would slice it, it would feel at points that you were going through little shards of bone that had been left behind. It wasn't bone. It turns out it was the same exact protein formations that you see here. Again, those Tyson crystals. So those crystals that you have here are going to be protein crystals that have been specifically linked to the production of serotonin. The crunch that it gives upon eating that, a study found that it lit up certain aspects of the brain that were linked to serotonin production. Now, Les Tavas is specifically a cow's milk cheese. So when we look at cheese and when we look at cheeses of Switzerland, there are a couple of different geographical factors that play a role in the making and what the cheese turns out to be. So For example, hang on. So, in Switzerland, you've got all these things called. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So in Switzerland, you've got all these things called mountains. These mountains fill up the land. They divide the land. They act as barriers across different areas. They act to divide certain sections of Switzerland apart from each other. But another thing that they provide is a really fun hiking experience for a bunch of animals and a couple of crazy people. So the way in which cheese is developed, and rather the way in which the Swiss land is, the way in which the Swiss land is oriented, there's only so much land that you have for the lower pastures. The lower pastures being what is at the bottom of the mountains, the grassy areas at the bottom of the mountains, before you simply run out of materials for the animals to eat. So, in ancient times, in which where we had early civilizations that were trying to make it long sections during the winter, in which they needed to have stores of food, in the process of creating food that lasted longer, you had people that took all of their milk, and they realized that their milk had a short shelf life. So, in order to increase the shelf life of that milk, they started making cheese out of their milk. Now, this cheese that they made lasted a lot longer than the milk that they made. Let me increase the... That's a bit too big. Now, this cheese that they made lasted a lot longer than the milk, but this cheese has to be protected. So there's a couple of different things that they would do in order to make sure that the production of cheese was able to go on. So the grass at the bottom of the mountains, again, there's only so much grass that you have before the animals, before the cows, before the sheep, before the goat eat all of the grass up, and you're left with nothing behind. At which point, the animals still need to eat. The animals still need to produce milk, as it's still in their gestation period and still in their production period during the year. So the animals are still producing milk. You still need to do something with that milk. You still need to produce that milk. So as the animals still need food, those animals start to move up the mountain. As those animals move up the mountain, you see the definition of the mountain play a little bit more of a role in the type of food that the animal is able to access. So, for instance, the higher up in the mountain you go, the steeper the cliffs go on the mountain. So while you're at the base of the mountain, while you have your animals towards the bottom, there's a lot more grass that grows. There's a lot more foliage, a lot more bushes, a lot more berries that will grow. And again, as you work your way up the mountain, you'll have less room for grass to grow. Grass takes up a good deal of space in terms of the root structure, in terms of the amount of area required for it to thrive, especially thrive to the point to where animals such as cows, goats can eat it en masse. As you go up the mountain, there's less opportunity for grass to grow. You see an increase in various things such as wildflowers. You see an increase in such things such as mosses and various lichens, as opposed to specific types of grasses. And as you go further up, this gets further and further more exclusive, depending on what was able to survive the Darwinism experience of natural selection. And again, as you work your way up, you're introducing more bacteria into your diet that is going to be impacting the final result of the flavor of the cheese. So, for example, that is going to be impacting the final result of the cheese. So, for example, if you have an animal that remains mostly at the bottom, the base of the mountain, that animal is going to mostly be eating grass, and that is mostly going to dictate the diet of the animal. You're going to end up with a cheese that has more of a grassy flavor, more of a nutty flavor. When you have traditional lait Gruyères, typically those are going to be Gruyères that are grown either at the base of the mountains or in the pastures themselves at the base of the mountains. When you talk about Alpage Gruyères, So specifically something like a Gruyere Alpage or specifically something like a Lait Tavaz, those are going to be specifically cheeses that are made at the tops or the higher parts of mountains. So, for those animals, you're going to have a bigger increase in the diet of floral flavors, or rather, let me rephrase that. So, for our animals at the top of the mountain, you're going to have a bigger increase in the intake of lichens, mosses, flowers, bushes, shrubs, and that is going to impart more of a specific flavor into the cheese that you're producing. So as opposed to having more of a grassy, nutty flavor like our base mountain animals, instead we have more of a floral, earthy flavor that you find from more of those barnyardy floral flora that you find from more of those sort of barnyardy flora participants at the higher parts of the mountain. So another part of what impacts the flavor of a lot of Swiss cheeses and what specifically makes me a big fan of Swiss cheeses is that as you go up the mountain, you have to carry a lot of things with you. Specifically, you have to carry with you all of the stuff you need for your animals, as well as you need all of the materials needed for the cheese making itself, because you are making the cheese as you work your way up the mountain. The cheese, or rather the milk that you are working with, you have to make it into cheese as you work your way up. A big part of the reason for this is a matter of weight. When you're dealing with cheese, or rather when you're dealing with milk, let's say you have a bottle of milk here. Your bottle of milk is, let's say, you have a bottle, or rather a barrel, that contains about, let's say, 80 gallons of milk. Your 80 gallons of milk, that is going to be all in liquid matter. In the process of taking liquid milk into solid cheese, you generally lose about, or you generally end up with about a tenth of the volume and mass. So for our 80 pounds of milk, we end up with about 8 pounds of dry cheese mass. So that 8 pounds is going to be much easier for us to manage to carry up a mountain as opposed to the 80 pounds of milk. Now that 80 pounds of milk, you can do various things, or rather the whey that comes off of that cheese, you can do various things with. You can feed that to the animals. You can use it for cooking. You can use it as a protein supplement. And so there are multiple uses for the whey that you have that comes off of the milk production. But the actual material that you're going to be carrying up the mountain is going to be a lot less than carrying the liquid weight all the way up the process. Now, along with that, you also have to carry the salt. You have salt. Salt is a necessary requirement for cheese. Cheese is the process in which you have a liquid and you introduce an acid. So you take your liquid milk and you introduce an acid. Typically, this is the enzyme rennet, which is an enzyme that is found on the interior of some animal stomachs. And in this process of adding an acid, you coagulate the curds together, and you're able to separate out the curds from the whey. In separating out the curds from the whey, you end up with curds that are very mild in flavor, that are very don't have really much to them. It's very very bland, all in all. And so by adding salt, not only are you able to preserve the food so that you're able to have it last through the cold winter times, because you need your food to be able to last the entire winter season for you to be able to survive the cold winter season. So by adding salt, you're able to extend the life of your cheese to a further extent. You add flavor to your cheese. You also help dehydrate the cheese. So salt is a natural dehydrator. When you put it into cheese, it draws out the moisture of that cheese. So when you have a big cheese like Parmigiano Reggiano, for example, which is a cheese that typically weighs about 80 pounds per wheel, that is a cheese that has a lot of salt in it. It's a very salty cheese. And because it has so much salt in it, it has a very dry, crumbly texture. If you've ever had Parmigiano Reggiano, especially the traditional from Italy from Emilia-Romagna, Parmigiano Reggiano, you'll know that it has a bit more of like a sandy, sort of gritty texture, especially once you start biting into it and breaking it down, and that eventually becomes more of a creamy texture. So, because it has so much salt in it, it's going to draw out a lot more of the moisture that's inside of the cheese. Now, when we look at Alpine styles, we have our animals that have to go up the mountains. We have our cheesemakers that have to go up the mountains. We also have all of our supplies that have to go up the mountains. Our supplies consist of the carts, consists of animal feed, consists of all the tools we need for cheese making, consists of our own food as well for our own sustenance and diets. And so you have this, all of these supplies you have to take up with you. A lot of the time, when you're trying to conserve on space, you cut out the non-essentials. And one of the non-essentials that you face when you're moving up the mountain in this way is salt. A lot of Alpine-style cheeses don't have as much salt added into them as a lot of other cheeses. One of the reasons is, as I listed here, again, you don't want to take too much weight up the mountain with you, because you have to carry everything up, you have to carry it all back down. It's all a big process. You have to do it in line with the seasons. You have to make sure you're on schedule. You have to make sure you're in line with the animal's gestation time period. So it's all a very complicated process. By having less salt, that is one less thing that you have to carry up the mountain with you, or less material that you have to carry up the mountain with you. The other end of it is that when you're coming back down the mountain, not only do you have all of your animals, do you have all of your people, and do you have most of your supplies, but now you also have all of your cheese wheels. All of your cheese wheels are going to be what's going to be getting you through the winter season. Again, this is a long time ago, before there's refrigeration, before we had the luxuries of which we have today, in which you have early civilizations that are trying to learn how to survive and how they're going to make it through the winter season with their family intact. You have all these individuals who are taking the cheese back down the mountain. Now, if you have your cheese wheel and you have something like a Parmigiano Reggiano, again, a very dry, a very crumbly cheese, and you drop that on the mountain, and let's say that Parmigiano Reggiano hits a sharp rock. It hits it, it bounces off, and you're left with 2 Parmigiano Reggiano halves. Now that you have these halves, you have just decimated your food supply for the winter season. As soon as you open the external rind that protects the interior paste of the cheese, you expose that interior paste to air, to outside influences, to outside bacteria, and it's going to start changing not only the interior texture at a much faster rate, but it's also going to dry out the cheese at a lot faster rate. It's going to allow mold to accumulate at a much faster rate, and essentially, again, you're going to have a lot more problems. With a cheese as salty and as dense and as hard as Parmigiano Reggiano, if that were to fall off, and if that were to hit a sharp rock and again fall to the ground and break in half, and suddenly again you're decimated in terms of your winter food supplies, you might be very sad. However, let's say you have something like a Gruyere, which Gruyere is a much more pliable cheese. So for example, due to having much less salt, you have a lot more pliability, a little bit more of a rubbery texture. So when, for example, if I were to be doing this with a piece of Parmigiano Reggiano, it would immediately snap in half. But I have here a little piece of our Le Tavaz, and 1 second. Not only can you see it has a little bit of pliability to it without breaking, it has a little bit of a rubbery texture, has a little bit more moisture than you would typically find in a Parmigiano Reggiano, just to use as a comparison point. The reason why that pliability is so important is because if your cheese Let's say you have a cheese, a wheel of Gruyere, for example, again, a more pliable, more rubbery cheese. If that were to fall off your cart as you're coming back down the mountain, if that were cheese were to hit a sharp rock, or if that cheese were to hit the ground and hit it in a bad way, as opposed to cracking in half, it's much more likely that cheese is going to fall to the ground, bounce, and then hit the ground. At the very extent, what you might also see is rather than the sharp rock impaling the cheese and that cheese wheel splitting in half, is that sharp rock impaling the cheese and then simply that little section of cheese having a little divot or a little hole in it, but the whole wheel as a unit is still safe. Now, even if you have a little hole like this, there's still much more material here that you can manage to supplement for a longer period of time, as opposed to an exposure of this level of something like a Parmigiano Reggiano wheel. So this is one of my favorite reasons why, or this is one of the reasons why I love Alpines, or these are several of the reasons I love Alpines. It's a very clear way, or rather, it's a very clear depiction in which the way that the cheese developed over time was very clearly inspired and caused from the geography of the place the cheese was being made. If the Swiss Alps didn't exist and we didn't have such steep mountains, such intense mountains that took up such large portions and plots of land, and it became a point of a matter of not only testing for better flavor, for better product, but also a matter of testing in order to better suit the environment that you're in terms of a matter of survival from early civilizations. That's one of my favorite hyperfixations when it comes to cheese. That's one of the things that I find very exciting about cheese, and specifically being able to taste the flavor differences, again, the geographical differences between a lower elevation Gruyere style versus a higher elevation Gruyere style cheese is, I think, absolutely fascinating. And the similar sense of comparing cheese to each other based off different cheese ages, where you have like Comté, for example, the French Comté. You have a lot of different varieties of age on the French Comté. Comté is another Alpine style, similar in size to Gruyere wheels, known for having a very strong caramelized onion flavor to it. But Comté, you have a variety of ages. You have 6-month, 12-month. My favorite personally is the 24 2-year month. That's my preference on creaminess to flavor development. But you have 36, 48 month, all these different options depending on what you're using it for. There's a different option for you. So if you're looking for a more creamy, more mild, better cheese for melting per se, then you're going to want to go towards the younger 6-month cheeses. If you're looking for a stronger, bolder cheese, maybe for the like finishing for a pasta, then you're going to want to go for the much older, more intense, drier, more granular cheeses that have a little bit more of a again, bold flavor to them. But Alpine styles, due to their lack of salt, as well as due to the process of alpage and transhumance, in which they go up 2 different elevations, Alpines, in my experience, generally have the best flavor profiles, best flavor development, most diverse flavor profiles, as far as the base flavor of the cheese itself. An important part of cheese making is pasteurization versus non-pasteurization. Pasteurization is taking the milk before you turn it into cheese and you heat it up to a certain temperature. Typically, this is above the internal temperature of the animal, but by heating up to that temperature, you're able to kill off unwanted bacteria. Typically, these are bacteria that are seen as dangerous, such as listeria and things along that line. Is just seen as a safety precaution. Now, you can also have unpasteurized cheeses. When it comes to cheese and cheese making, overall, for the process in which these cheeses are being aged, the bacteria like listeria and things that you need to worry about in that nature will generally die off before you need to have any kind of concern. Generally speaking, if there's any concern that needs to be had, it's for very young, it's for women who are pregnant, it is for women who are breastfeeding. However, that being said, I am not a doctor. I recommend speaking to an actual medical professional as opposed to a cheese weeb who just likes talking about cheese on the internet. But with that being said, a lot of Swiss cheeses are specifically unpasteurized. By keeping cheeses unpasteurized, not only do you keep more bacteria in it, but overall you keep more flavor into the cheese itself. That the bacteria that you keep in the cheese is going to enhance in flavor, is going to enhance the profile of the cheese and the final result. Everything that you start out with is going to be what you finish with, and so the bacteria that you start with is very specific to the region, the area, the specific place that you find yourself in, the grass that you're eating, the flowers that you're eating, all these, again, different factors that we have playing into the final role of the flavor of the cheese. I think that's all the cheese content I cared about talking about. I have some cheese to snack on. What time is it? Woo, it's already 9:30. What do you say we read our One Piece chapter and get on out of here? Yeah, really tasty cheese. Again, on the front end you have like, they're not even necessarily like really sharp. They're just really well defined, like pineapple notes. And I think that, oh no, is my iPad dead? Guess we're reading the chapter on our phone. Never ideal, but our fans can't be kept waiting any longer. We've been pushing this off for days. But yeah, it's not necessarily like a super sharp flavor that comes from it, the pineapple. It's mostly, it's a very well-defined flavor, I would say, coming from it. But yeah, you have very sharp pineapple notes on the front end, and more towards the center, it leans more grassy. Usually grassy I use as a substitute for like tasting fresh, tasting clean. Funny enough, it does sort of have the like flavor profile of like Bean Boozled. If you're familiar, trademark, don't copyright me, Bean Boozled. But it does remind me of like the Bean Boozled freshly mowed grass flavor. But if we go to Shonen Jump, I can go ahead and start reading this chapter. One Piece. It's the One Piece. Excuse me, my goodness. So, timeline-wise, it looks like the next One Piece chapter... It looks like the next One Piece chapter is going to be starting, or is going to be coming out in 12 days. So I'm probably going to be trying to do all my clips and videos this week to post and get ready for the next chapter to try to do an official Cheese Weeb book club and have several cheeses to orient and talk about and discuss. But in the meantime, I would like to do chapter 1153. So, I like One Piece a lot. I've discussed this several times. I've got some favorite characters, mostly Sanji, Luffy, Yamato, all of our typical favorites. Yamato, Katakuri, and right now in our story, we ended last chapter with finding out that King Harold was an absolute scumbag. King Harold was a lowly scum life scumbag, and we hate to see that from him. I am very excited to hopefully dive into the background of Harold, find out what made him a scumbag. My assumption on what made him a scumbag, I would assume it's simply a matter of him being a child prince. I think it said that he was 15 when he assumed the throne. But with him assuming the throne, with him getting all of that power, I assume it was very much, just King Joffrey, world handed to you, entitled little son of a bitch, with a lot of power. And I'm interested to see what made him become Elbaf's most beloved ruler across all of the years. But I'm mostly excited to see if there is a new Yamato cover story, because that is what I'm actually here for. Oh boy. Oh boy. There is a Yamato cover story. Of course there is. We've been on a stream for such a while. I'm so blessed to be. It's such a good time to be a Yamato fan, let me tell you. It's an absolute blessed era. Can I cut down on the brightness of this? That's a bit better. All right. One Piece, chapter 1153. The Birth of Loki. Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest, Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 37. Daimyo of Ringo. Kikunojo and Boss Ocho. Yeah, this is a this is a wonderful little album cover. We have Yamato running and hugging Kikunojo. We love to see it. We love to see our trans allies. Absolutely phenomenal. We love to see Yamato with a big old smile on his face. He looks so happy. It makes me so happy to see him so happy. I'm just happy that he's able to finally go and explore the land of Wano to his heart's content and live the way that Odin lived and become Odin. It's just so inspirational. I love to see this. I can't wait to get all of the cover story printed out, turned into posters, and put on my wall. That's going to be a wonderful little piece. One Piece. Roll credits. Anyway, yeah, great time to be a Yamato fan. But again, chapter 1153, The Birth of Loki. Prince Harold of Elbaf lived out his rather unhinged childhood years alongside Dorian Bragi. Thanks to his innate size and strengths, gift from his ancient giant blood as well as his noble status, he developed an inflated sense of self, and no one could stop him from growing into a royal pain. I like alongside Dorian Bragi. Again, Dorian Bragi are gay. It is confirmed. It is canon. They make out in their free time, and they do butt stuff. And if you don't believe that, then you're not an ally. Growing into a royal pain. Everyone outside of Elbaf is so tiny and pitiful and boring. Don't you agree? Of course, Your Majesty. You're exactly right. Bunt Kingdom, New World. Come one, come all. Marvel at the 10-meter woman. Feel the earth tremble as she walks. Cover your ears when she barks thunder. A rare giant from the exotic land of Elbaf. Feast your eyes on Ida. Rawr! You have eek audience running. Wah! Step away from the cage if you don't want to be hurt. Turning a giant into a sick sideshow? They've got some nerve, says King Harold. Bara ha 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 ha. Yeah ha ha ha. They thought that Elbaf was a joke. Well, who's laughing now? Who are you, says Ida. No need to thank me. I'm the king of Elbaf. I won't stand to see my homeland disrespected like that. Slapped across the face. King Harold gets slapped across the face, and everyone yells, "What?" Your Majesty, King Harold. Oh. Turn the ship around. I need to apologize. So many people were hurt back there, said Ida. Are you insane? You care about that mini kingdom of tiny humans? Do I have to hit you again? Ida asked. King Harold, they saved my life when I washed up on their shore and gave me a job to do. They were kind enough to help me make a living until I was fully healed. What do you mean, tiny humans? Just because you happen to be born huge and are coincidentally strong and brutish, you actually think that makes you better than humans? How can you be so arrogant? It's pathetic. This is why everyone thinks that all giants are as barbaric and brutish as Elbaf. Interesting. King Harold being scolded for the way in which Elbaf behaves itself, typically an isolated kingdom, now exploring outside realms and seeing their effects on outside places, their reputations. Just because I was born huge Looks like they go back, they apologize, they fix some things. Should we just set sail, King Harold? Why are you all just spacing out? Huh? Go and help her, you ninnies. That town is as tiny as a model. It's easy work. Yes, Majesty. Looks like we see a little bit of a change in King Harold there. Why aren't you... Their method of construction is completely different from ours. We should tell everyone about it when we return to Elbath. I want to bring home some of their spices. I've never tasted flavors like these before. Ooh, we love new things. We love cross culture. Notice how hardy their fabric is, and yet it's so fine. These humans are more skilled than we realized. Acknowledgement of, ooh. Oh, they're doing the Nika dance. Oh, they're doing the dance. Stump, stump. Dum, 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 dum. I think that's what that is anyway. Sure looks like it. You have to see things from their eye level, Harold. Nothing in the world is meant to be destroyed. I was born on Samwanai Island in the South Blue. After some twists and turns, my life's path brought me here, said Ida. So you crossed the Serpent of Blood. You mean the Red Line? Well, yes, which is why I can't go back home. Then come to Elbath. We're not as barbaric as you say. Oh, maybe I was mistaken about you too. King Harold's changed. Yeah, it's creepy. I bet it won't last long. So we're seeing Harold go out, and we're seeing Harold try out new cultures, and we're seeing Harold experience new things, and we're seeing Harold, in theory, like these things. We're seeing Harold experience new things and like the new spices. We're seeing Harold like the new fabrics and start to acknowledge benefits from outside places and see people and others as a source of good, as opposed to just a force to be, dominated. Who does the before of that sound like? It sounds like someone I can think of. Trump. Elbath. 105 years ago. I wish to atone for all of my countless crimes. What's gotten into you, Harold? I may be out of the country more often than I'd wish, but it is only to join hands with our neighbors and ask them to teach us their culture. If we learn from the rest of the world, we can make our land and lives richer. Yeah, but Dory and Broggy are still raising hell out there. Wahaha. They are good friends of mine, but they have always been eccentric. They're cordial with humankind and follow a code of honor. That's true. It doesn't hurt that they can fight, of course, but if they pose too much of a threat to other nations, we may have to rein them in. King Harold says as he addresses the masses in Elbath. Trying to see if I can recognize anyone, if that's Jarul. I don't think so. Oh, there he is. Zababababa. What a turnabout. Bo ja ja ja, meeting new people took him on a journey. Elbath is blessed with good luck, says Ida. For example, by sending diplomats back and forth, we can help deepen the ties and friendship between nations. I see, so we're taking hostages then. Don't say it like that. It means that countries can't get to be friends unless the people in them are connected somehow. Elbath, 81 years ago. Fisherman village, Eastern Elbath. The baby's been born. Congratulations, Harold and Ida. Thank you all. Now Ida and I can... Oh no, you are forbidden from marrying her. The royal line must remain pure blood. That sounds gross. I hate eugenics. I'm not a fan of eugenics, and you can quote me on that. The royal line must remain pure of blood. Sounds gross to me. I'm sorry, Ida. It galls me that it must come to this. This is just how the culture works. You can't get emotional and fight against it. Ida says that? Oh, that's cute. Harold grabbing little Hajruden's hand. That was hard to say. You're always welcome to our village, Ida. As long as you live in the same country as Daddy, you'll be happy, right, Hajrudin? Ida's very fine with being fine with the culture. Alright, whatever. Oh, who are you? This is your true betrothed, Harold. Estrid's blood is pure and ancient. Great. Elbaf, Brewer's Village. Prestigious daughter Estrid. I was born in the Brewer's Village to the north, and I study geomancy. She is one worthy of being our queen. It is my fate to love you for the rest of my life. Forget all about that woman and child to the east. Oh, that's, no, I don't think Harold likes that idea. Good heavens, the spirit is escaping to the east. Yeah, good luck. Your good luck is getting away. We must close these windows at once. The spirit is escaping to the east, says the geomancer. What spirit, huh? And that mirror, it's the 5-star kill position. Destroy it at once. This is Asla, the horse of good fortune. This is a gift from my clan, the perfect mount for you, King Harold. I have no doubt that this horse will bring you great luck. It's enormous, and why does it have 8 legs? It does have 8 legs. Only one head? Yeah, only one head, I think. Guards, bring all the jewels and gold in the treasury to my chambers. This is to ensure that the fortunes of wind and earth are sent in His Majesty's direction. Also inform the scullery maids that from this day forward, the king and I will be using the fine silver to eat all of our meals. Is she just after luxury? Someone thinks. About 70 years ago, in an era when the rigors of the sea made it difficult to maintain trade between islands, Elbaf's skill at navigation was the envy of other nations. There's a star to the north that never moves called the Pole Star. Ooh, Harold says, holding up a ship. You said you met a mermaid, King Harold? Yes, at last, fishmen too. In the kingdom where those with fish blood live, their king has a newborn heir named Neptune. All the creatures of the sea, not just mermaids and fishmen, were engaged in a grand celebration that spanned the seafloor. Ooh. All the creatures of the sea, not just the men and mermaids and fishmen, were engaged in a grand celebration that spanned the seafloor. Arust Castle, Elbaf, 63 years ago, while Harold was away from home. Congratulations, my queen, is a very healthy boy. His name is Loki. The king and I decided on it. Now show me my baby. What? Oh my. Oh Loki. Oh my Loki. You have beautiful eyes. What in the world? What are you? What? Oh no. It's terrifying. Your Majesty, it's horrid. What is that thing? That is no son of mine. Please, Your Majesty, try to remain calm. Tell the kingdom that it was stillborn. You can't be serious. It is a curse. Just look at that baby. It's a monster. Oh, poor little Loki. He's got a little fucked up eyes, but he didn't do nothing. Poor guy. He said, That's all Loki said was, Oh, what's going on with his eyes, though? What is that? Anyway. The Prince of Elbaf grasped for the empty air, but no hands reached out to envelop his own. Stop, Your Majesty. He's the royal heir. The most unfortunate of all living creatures is the one whose very existence is denied by its mother in the moment of its birth. Do you hear me? I bore no child. Do not tell a soul about this. But what are you planning to do? I'm going back home. I never want to bear another child. Your Majesty, head guardsman, down in the underworld. What about? the underworld. What about the So she threw the baby into the under. What about the underworld? Loki was thrown into the underworld. Loki was Oh God! Oh, oh no! Oh no! Oh, what have they done to you? Oh no, Loki! Ah. Oh, that's Oh, that's horrifying. Oh God. Oh, that's horrifying. What are you? Queen Estrid fell ill. Get rid of the child. There is a prophecy before it was even born. The prophecy said that King Harold would one day be killed by his own son. Not that madness again. And while Harold was busy banging his head against the problem of national relations, the world government has stepped in to block our path again. Why can't countries be free to decide for themselves? Hey, can I see the baby too? He's your brother. He's not your son, so he's not my brother. Oh, you're even sweet like that. All of the misfortunes that would fall upon Elbaf will be known as Loki's curse. Oh God, Loki, no. Oh, that's horrifying. Oda, why'd you do that? Hey, Oda, why'd you do that? What is going on with his eyes? I mean, I guess that explains his insecurity. So, I've been wondering why Harold would ever be assumed to be the, I guess, de facto best, or not de facto, but the proclaimed best, kindest ever ruler of Elbaf. And based off the chapter of what happened last time of him being a spoiled brat, I was only left wondering what could be the thing that led to him changing from being a spoiled, selfish brat, even that we saw at the beginning of the chapter, to being this kind person. And it was love. It was love. Of course, it was love. It's always love. But looks like Harold met Ida. Looks like what happened. I am surmising based off my profession in cheese and all things good. I surmise that Harold fell in love. I think Harold finally met somebody who is big enough to slap him in his face at eye level, and finally somebody who wasn't a yes man, and finally somebody who wasn't just going to blow him off at everything that he happened to say at a moment's notice. I think he found somebody who's willing to call him on his bullshit, and I think that this finally took him down to a peg in which he could actually learn from a person as opposed to just stomping on people. Somebody willing to be able to call him out on his bullshit and put a stop to the bad things that he's doing and call them bad things to his face, as opposed to just saying, you know, oh, King Harold, whatever you wish, whatever you deserve. So it looks like Ida coming in. I guess her not putting up with his bullshit, him finally finding somebody not willing to put up with his bullshit, somebody who doesn't immediately like him and placate towards him and wanting to impress them and wanting to appease them and wanting to make them happy to a certain extent, going so far as to force his crew, his men, his citizens, to help put back the things that he broke together. Not him doing it necessarily himself, but having his servants, his subjects do it for him. But I was just talking earlier today about Zohran Mamdani and the way in which knowledge of other people's cultures generally leads to better tolerance. And it's, I think, incredible that I'm now reading this chapter in which the rude and brutish and barbaric King Harold, who's never known a good day in his life, is then immediately turned around. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me know. God knows how long it was like that. Uh, but I really like the way One Piece depicts open air prisons in the way through islands, through the lack of getting from one place to another, the lack of access to other places, and the lack of not too long. Good, I'm glad to hear. Thanks for joining in. But the way the islands simulate the experience of an open air prison, not being able to communicate with other people, not being able to go to other places, having the depictions of life in those places being presented from a pink-colored lens or pink-colored lens, pink glasses, if you will. And so the way in which these islands operate, separating out the people, feels very much in line with separating out the Palestinians from the outside world feels very much in line with separating out class, sections of class from each other, and ways to draw out distinctions from each other. But I think it's fascinating that King Harold is changing in front of our eyes again, as I have been talking about the inclusion all night of Zohran Mamdani's campaign, and how knowledge of other people leads to more tolerant and more empathetic outcomes from people. We are seeing that in this chapter. We love validation. What else is important here? What else did I notice? So we have... What else do we have? Oh, yes. We also see the direct intervening of the world government. We have Harold's line in which he says at the end, the world government has stepped in to block our path again. Why can't countries be free to decide for themselves? So the world government operates on a system in which they demand tribute, demand taxation from their subjects, from the various islands that make up the world of One Piece. They have to pay tribute based off the number of people on their island, based off the wealth of the island. They have to pay tribute to the celestial dragons, who are the 1% in the One Piece world, who only have that title based off of predestined class structures, white supremacist structures, maintaining patriarchal structures. That is the only reason in which the celestial dragons have power. And the world government works to separate out these islands and separate these islands from organizing. So Harold at this time is not affiliated with the world government, and so due to that, the world government is directly getting in his way of trying to share cultures across with other islands. So I've been trying to figure out with Harold why he was teaming up with the world government, and it looks like my understanding now with this flashback is that he was teaming up with the world government, it seems very much in line with him it seems in line, I can think of a couple people that this reminds me of. It seems in line with King Harold eventually deciding, after fighting a system long enough, Harold saying, okay, I need to work within the system in order to be able to make the change that I want to see in the systems that currently exist. And so my assumption is that after Harold was busy hanging his head against the wall, after he's done banging his head, he decides, okay, I need to make peace with world government, work with the world government in order to share cultures in a better way. This is a guess, but that's why I'm assuming he ended up moving towards that direction. But Loki here, and the discarding of Loki specifically, I think is absolutely wild. Again, it has in the the quote for Loki's dropping into hell, the underworld. The most unfortunate of all living creatures is the one whose very existence is denied by its mother in the moment of its birth. So, like, Elbaf being separated into different tiers, different classes almost, of the underworld, the middle world, earth world, and then heaven. Being separated into these different tiers, the wild symbolism of the unwanted child being dropped literally into the frozen barren wastelands of hell does not go unforeseen from me, at least. I feel like there's a lot of Greek mythology around this specifically. I know Loki, obviously Norse, not necessarily in the One Piece context, but I am fascinated to find out if there's something specifically about denying of a mother denying in Greek mythology. I don't know why that's sticking out with me. It's probably something I read from Percy Jackson. Sticking with me in the back of my head, but I'll look at that later. But yeah, the mother dropping her freshly born son, who she never even held, or rather not even dropping it herself, having somebody else drop the child into the underworld the moment of its birth to get rid of it, I imagine has untold carryovers on the emotional psyche. Now, who knows how giant blood works, how giant recall works, but I think it's really interesting that Loki is able to climb up from the depths of literal hell. I don't know the time passage from here, but presumably she drops the baby, or they drop the baby. She turns around, she packs up her shit, and she's like, I gotta get out of here. I'm leaving now. And then the guy comes in and says, Hey, Majesty, the guardsman down in the underworld. She responds, What about the underworld? And that's when we see, like, I imagine that's Loki day one. Are you telling me that's Loki who day one, who has a fresh, crisp little baby Bab? Fresh, crisp little baby Bab. He was able to climb his way out of the underworld, out of hell itself, and also the picture of hell being the frozen wasteland in line with like the depiction of hell from Dante's Inferno being the lack of heat, so cold in this way. Again, I think strengthens the climbing out of hell. But bro crawled out of hell on the very first day that he was born after being cursed by his mother and not even held by her, thrown into the depths of hell, crawls his way back up. Does my guy have like sentience already? Like, does he already have like formative, like conscious, like, does he remember specifically this? Does this memory stuck with them? Does his eyes mean that he sees everything and like recalls everything? What do his eyes mean? I don't know these things. I'm just sort of speculating and talking of my feelings right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stuck out at me with this chapter. I mean, I love the polar opposites of Hajrudin. Again, we have the opposite brothers. We have the Remus and Romulus, if you will. But we have the polar brothers who one was loved and beloved and potentially, based off that one panel we have, even maybe, I don't know, overbearingly loved, or at least to the point, or at least in the eyes of Hajrudin at points. That could just be me reading too into a little cutesy panel that Oda decided to drop. But Hajrudin's statement of, he's not your son, he's not my brother. Obviously, Hajrudin has a lot of contempt for the way that his mother was treated. I imagine Hajrudin probably feels as though he is the rightful heir. I imagine he's probably seen his mother being left to the wayside in his eyes as the other, Estrid. As Estrid is brought up through the ranks as some nobody but predestined by capital owners. Try explaining that to a child, why his mom and dad aren't together because village elders dictated that it was so because of tradition. And now you're being told that your little brother, your new little brother, is born. I imagine Hajrudin probably sees Loki in this moment, not necessarily as him gaining a little brother, but rather the disenfranchisement of his own mother being increased to a further level, because now they're going to be pushed out even more of the family. I'm assuming he thinks, now that the real family has been formed, and the real son and the real heir has been formed and been born, now life can really begin. And so, like, imagine how that feels for Hajrudin. I'm sure they have a complicated past that we'll get into, Hajrudin and Loki, and the way that they treat each other. But going into it, this is his immediate reaction to Loki being born. Loki's response of, or rather Loki's bullying of Hajrudin later on. Maybe it's simply a matter of, Hajrudin had the size for a little while, bully the shit out of Loki, and Loki then gained the size because he has his ancient giant blood. And, now Hajrudin feels even more disenfranchised. That, I think, explains very easily why there's so much brotherly contempt. And as that builds over the number of years and as that grows further and further along and they grow further apart from each other, the blame gets easier to shift more and more easily, I would think, over time. But I was an older brother. I understand the fear of the fear of replacement, the fear of not necessarily being seen in the same light, of things changing in general, with the bringing of a new child into lives, and these I think are all feelings that older siblings feel to some extent as things change in general. But that's just a part of life, and sorry, bro, you got to get over it at a certain point. Not to say that to Hajrudin about this specific situation, but I thought that was a really fun chapter. It's not, it didn't beat last week's chapter in my mind, but it was a good chapter. I don't think I have much else specifically for this chapter. I'm interested in that 8-leg horse. The horse have a name. It was Asla. Asla, the horse of good fortune. Another thing to look into. See if that has any meaning. I'd be interested to find out. I'm scared to find out, honestly. Who knows where he pulled that from. Oh, yeah. Harold is talking. So this was 70 years ago. When the rigors of the sea made it difficult to maintain trade between islands. Difficult to get from island to island. Hate to see it. That looks like Wano that they're sailing through there. But I'm interested. Yes, I have at last fishmen 2 in the kingdom where those with fish blood live. Their king has a newborn heir named Neptune. Neptune, we know. We know Neptune. Decent guy, Neptune. All the creatures of the sea, not just the mermaids and fishmen, were engaged in a grand celebration that spanned the sea floor. I'm interested to see what he means by span the sea floor. Does it take up the entirety of the sea floor? As we've already seen, parts of the sea floor have been lost cityscapes that are underwater. And so I'm interested, obviously the fishmen are able to access those areas. Obviously sea kings are able to access those areas. And so I'm interested also to see if Harold had any idea or any knowledge into potential lost civilizations underwater as well. I don't really know how extensive the knowledge around that is. I imagine most fishmen know, or at least Neptune has got to have an idea. He can communicate, or I think he's able to communicate with the Sea Kings. I could be crazy. I'm too lazy to look it up right now as well, too. But yeah, I think that's most of the stuff I want to talk about. Geomancy. I wonder if that was just a ploy to be able to get all of the golds and jewels in one place. I studied geomancy. Yeah, I think that's all of my thoughts for this. So you cross the Serpent of Blood. There we see Harold calling it the Serpent of Blood, in line with the cultural lines of Elbaf, as opposed to Ida responding with, "You mean the red line?" Well, yes, which is why I can't go home. Crossing, you can't go back across. Welcome to Elbaf. We're not as barbaric as you say. Oh, then come to Elbaf. He says as he beats Shark on the shore. King Harold's changed. What's got into you, Harold? Yeah, I think that's everything I have. I keep on saying that. I like that panel of Harold getting slapped. you can feel the force behind it. Cool. Well, that's it for me, folks. I want to thank everybody again for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to spend my time not only getting to talk about One Piece, but getting to talk about Zohran Mamdani for so long, getting to good night, be safe, drink water, getting to talk about One Piece, getting to talk about cheese. I can't wait to again turn these. Let's go to better music than Trainer Joey for our outro. Let's go to Suicune. How long? No, let's go to. Ooh, let's go to Park. Whitney Park. Where's the park? Here we go. Yeah, this is what I want for outro music. Here we go. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to get on tonight and talk to everybody about all sorts of things. Zohran Mamdani, cheese, One Piece, the Holy Trinity, as it were. All of life's essentials, all in one place here at the Cheese Weeb. Again, thank you all for joining me tonight. And more importantly, I hope that you all stay safe out there. I'm going to be doing Cheese Weeb Book Club officially next when the new chapter comes out in 12 days. So I'm probably going to be doing it the Monday after. So that's going to be the, what day is that? The, what day is that? Not the 7th. My official Cheese Weeb Book Club, the start of it, in which I'm going to have several cheeses, is going to be for Monday, July 14th. Maybe the 15th. Yeah, the 14th. We'll do the 14th. It's going to be Monday, July 14th. I am very excited to see everybody then. I am excited to get things rolling in the meantime. I know I just keep on talking and stalling out the broadcast. But before I go, again, one last time, everybody stay safe. Watch out for the pigs out there. Be sure to drink water. And go do some volunteering for Zohran Mamdani. Call your local official and local Congress people and ask them why aren't they doing more to support Zohran Mamdani. It's up to us to make sure that he gets the support that he needs and to be able to hold the established Democrats accountable and get the job done that we need him to. So look out for him. Be safe, everybody. Good night. Whee!